Chapter 477. Because he had been busy with exams recently, Wang Ling had paid very little attention to other things. But now that he had finished 2 exams, he suddenly felt a lot less pressure. One exam was one less exam. Most kids at this age had the same idea as Wang Ling. Sometimes, before they had finished all their exams, and when there was only one left, they would start to unload all their burdens and get high at home. So now that Wang Ling had calmed down and thought about it carefully, he indeed felt that something wasn't quite right with Loopy Toad. Furthermore, the first time Wang Ling had felt that something was wrong was when Loopy Toad had watched Daoist Guang's live stream after it had finished cultivating in the small garden. At that time, Loopy Toad had directly given Daoist Guang a huge wave of flashing red gifts. Wang Ling estimated that all the gifts added up to at least 1,000 yuan. That was equivalent to his monthly allowance. First of all, Wang Ling felt that it was necessary to figure out where all this money had come from. Secondly, Wang Ling also realized that Loopy Toad had been particularly diligent in cultivating recently. If it had been a week ago, this guy would still have been sleeping in the garden before noon when the sun was shining down on its head. Of course, narcolepsy might have played a part in this, but Wang Ling felt that it didn't make sense for Loopy Toad to change from a lazy character to a diligent one after bathing in the holy beast blood, to alleviate some of the symptoms of narcolepsy. Was it because of his inheritance talisman? Wang Ling cupped his chin in front of his desk as he pondered, but the point was that the inheritance talisman didn't have the effect of making a lazy dog more diligent. Wang Ling had a vague feeling that Loopy Toad was hiding something from him. And it was something big. The point was that judging from Dog 2's current behavior, it probably wanted to solve it on its own. Although a good dog was one that didn't cause its owner any trouble and could even relieve its owner's worries, since they had already signed a spirit beast contract, Wang Ling felt that as Dog 2's owner, he should show some of the attitude that a master should have. If something big really happened, it wouldn't do for Loopy Toad to take it all on its own. But Loopy Toad didn't want to say anything, and Wang Ling couldn't force it to say anything. That would make him look overbearing and a little unreasonable. Although he was usually a little expressionless, he was actually very gentle. He wouldn't accept any rebuttals. The old man had been taking care of his flowers and plants. When it was almost 10 o'clock, he was ready to ride sheep out to buy a fish. The cooking duel between the old master and Jiang Haifu, the head of kitchen knife sect, had not ended yet. For this reason, the old master had been studying the recipe for the duel, preparing to invent a new fish dish. Since he wanted to study fish cuisine, he naturally had to buy fresh ingredients. If they were frozen in the fridge, the freshness of the ingredients would definitely be lost. As long as a gourmet chef put in the effort, everyone would be able to feel it. The first and second seasons of A Bite of China had such high ratings, so why was it being criticized and flamed in the 3rd season? The audience were not fools. They could tell if the chef had put in a lot of effort or not. Usually, when the old man went out, he would take Loopy Toad out for a stroll or something. In the end, the old man realized that Loopy Toad wasn't at home when he went out these 2 days. "Why are you always going out recently?" The old man scratched his head, a little puzzled. He didn't remember his dog being like this before. Hearing this, Mother Wang couldn't help laughing. "Dad, Loopy Toad isn't an ordinary dog, it also has to cultivate. You can't treat it like a normal house pet." Right, this is a spirit dog. I almost forgot." The old man patted his head. "But I heard that spirit beasts actually eat a lot. In the end, our dog really saves money." Mother Wang nodded. "There are a lot of students at Ling Ling's school who are concerned about him. Classmate Gua's family runs a spirit beast shop, and they send custom-made dog food over every week. That's why this dog food is different from the ones sold outside." Speaking up to this point, the old man specially reminded Mother Wang that she had to give Dopey Guo a clear accounting of the money later. The old man felt that it was a good intention, but it really wasn't right to take it for free. Even if the other party didn't want it, he still had to give them some. Don't worry, Dad. The last time I gave them money, the shop assistant and classmate was house refused to take it. From now on, I'll go to their shop once a week to buy some dog food and cat food and send it to the stray house. The stray house that Mother Wong was talking about was actually a charity project of the Pet Trainers Guild. It took in a lot of homeless spirit beasts, most of which were stray cats and dogs. After all, Mother Wong had lived for so many years and was quite adept at dealing with the ways of the world. Dopigwa refused to take the money, but Mother Wong went to their shop every week, and anyone with a discerning eye could tell what she was thinking. As time went by, the shop assistants who distributed the goods became familiar with Mother Wong and felt that she was very understanding. This directly represented the Wong family's image. Beautifully done, Dongmei. The old man couldn't help praising her. Actually, this wasn't deliberate. Goodwill could be passed on. Dopigwa had his own kind heart, and all Mother Wong did was pass on this goodwill. Upstairs, Wong Ling quietly listened to the conversation between Mother Wong and the old man, and his heart warmed. It was said that behind a powerful man there was an even more powerful woman. Wong Ling felt that no matter how high his realm was or how extraordinary his strength was, it didn't matter. It wasn't him who was supporting the family now, but Father Wong. Thus, in Wong Ling's heart, Father Wong's image as a father would always be very lofty. As the woman behind a powerful man, Wong Ling's imagination had elevated Mother Wong's image to new heights. Although Mother Wong herself might not realize it, she had indeed used her unfinished novel to groom old antique and Taoist Tao Tai, this pair of epic killers at peak itinerant immortal level, so even if Mother Wong was just a housewife, she was still a very strong housewife. Never look down on a housewife, because you never knew what a housewife did when she wasn't doing housework. While Wong Ling was sighing with emotion in his heart, he heard the old man say, "But it's not good for our dog to run around all day. I had a colleague who also had a little thing at home, but it was a cat. After a while, she brought back a whole litter." Mother Wong was blank and covered her mouth in astonishment. Loopy Toad probably wouldn't do such a thing, that's hard to say. Sometimes, when feelings arise, it can set its sights on a gorgeously dressed little female dog. So my suggestion is, in for a penny, in for a pound. Saying this, the old man made a scissors gesture. Directly ligate it. Wong Ling, in that instant, it was as if the hearts of Wong Ling and his mother were connected. This song was dedicated to Loopy Toad. Come back quickly. Chapter 478. Of course, the old man was just casually mentioning the sterilization. After all, spiritual beasts had spiritual intelligence and were no longer what they used to be. As a spiritual beast with intelligence, it would naturally suppress its emotions. Otherwise, it would be no different from a toy poodle. The main thing was that Loopy Toad had been leaving early and coming back late these last few days, which worried the old man a little. On one hand, the old man actually knew that Loopy Toad had been involved in the recent incident with the Demon Hunters Association. Now that the head of the Demon Hunters Association hadn't been caught, what if someone took revenge on Loopy Toad when it went out? On the other hand, in today's society, there were many careless friends. Who knew whether his pure and innocent but face would be led astray by some scoundrels? Wong Ling realized that Father Wong's talent for writing novels really might have been inherited from the old man. The older a person got, the bigger the hole in their imagination and the easier it was for them to let their imagination run wild. Even if he was choosing a daughter-in-law for himself, the old man still chose, numinous mother with numinous axe, for Father Wong. Dad, do what you need to do. I'll get Ling Ling to look for him later, it'll be fine. Seeing the old man's worried expression, Mother Wong comforted him. After watching sheep take the old man out to sell fish, she turned around and went upstairs to look for Wong Ling. Wong Ling immediately knew that this operation to find Loopy Toad was unavoidable. But fortunately, he had already finished 2 exams. Apart from the essay section, he felt that he already had victory in his theory of history and politics classes next Monday. On this Saturday, he had plenty of time to deal with Buttface. It was actually very easy to find Loopy Toad, one just needed to use the Spirit Beast contract to easily pinpoint its general location. But Wong Ling felt that finding Loopy Toad wasn't the key right now. What on earth was it hiding from him? A lazy dog had suddenly become diligent in cultivation, leaving early in the morning and returning late at night. The most terrifying thing was that he had learned to hide his own money. If it wasn't for the fact that he knew that his dog wasn't an indiscreet dog, Wong Ling would really have thought that his dog was keeping a little female dog outside. Wong Ling sighed. Actually, even if Mother Wong and the old man hadn't said anything, he would have taken the initiative to show some concern. But first, he had to know what secret Loopy Toad was hiding. Loopy Toad went out that morning. Because the Wong family's small villa was in a remote location, Loopy Toad had to catch the first spirit bus in the morning according to the time it had agreed on with Wei Ji. There were a lot of people on the suburban spirit buses, and they had taken in a lot of passengers along the way. If it had been a hearse in the city, it would have been pushed to the bottom by now. Of all the modes of transportation, except for the subway, none of the other modes of transportation had space expansion technology. For Loopy Toad, taking a spirit bus was a relatively more convenient option. Getting on the bus was the same as before. It would first sneak into the bus at high speed, then find a place to hide, and leave a few coins under the seat when it got out. From the Wong family's villa to Wei Ji's apartment, if one were to travel on a sword, it would only take 15 minutes. However, the hearse was still a step too slow. It took Loopy Toad a full hour and a half to reach the apartment where Wei Ji lived. It was almost the same time as Loopy Toad had predicted. If Wong Ling had left the house half an hour later, he would have been late. When they arrived at the family apartment building, Loopy Toad burrowed into a bush and sent Wei Ji its location, indicating that it had arrived and asking him to come down and pick it up. Why did it burrow into a haystack? If anyone saw a green Akita that knew how to use its own phone to chat, it would probably be on social news again, so Loopy Toad was still on guard. At the same time, Loopy Toad also noticed that the security guard at the entrance to the family apartment building seemed to have been replaced, and the main entrance was tightly shut. Without an access card, you weren't allowed in at all unless an acquaintance came down to pick you up. After that group of Bone Dragon men from the Demon Hunters Association had bribed the security guards with a few packs of cigarettes to break into the family apartment building, it was clear that this matter had been taken very seriously. The security guards at the family apartment building were now very new, and they looked as strict as the mighty miracle god guarding the door. After sending the message, Loopy Toad jumped out of the bush and waited at the entrance for Wei Ji to come down to pick him up as promised. When several security guards in the security booth saw a green-furred dog appear at the apartment building entrance, their eyes instantly felt a lot more refreshed. A pair of security guards on duty chatted in the security booth as they stared at Loopy Toad. This dog's fur color is so strange. It's fine, at least it protects its eyes. Look, it's staring at us. Whose dog is this? Why don't we let it in? At first glance, it looks a little cute. Don't cause trouble. If it really is from the apartment, the owner will definitely come down to pick it up. Our last batch of security guards was fired because one of them let someone in at random, and even the old captain was implicated. At this point, the security guard who had said he would let Loopy Toad in instantly fell silent. To be honest, the family apartment building wasn't an ordinary place, and they were treated very well here. Furthermore, even the security guards were veterans who had retired from the army, so they were actually very professional. As for the last time when they had let someone from the Demon Hunters Association in for a pack of cigarettes, that had been purely a mistake on the job. Supposedly, the brother who had let them in at noon that day had been a little depressed because he had been jilted, so he had drunk some alcohol and had gotten hot-headed for a moment. But no one had expected the matter to blow up so much. With Director Zhang's involvement in this matter, no one dared to say a word. In fact, in many people's eyes, being fired was already a very light punishment. Director Zhang's identity in the family apartment building where Wei Ji lived actually wasn't a secret. This was Marshal Jiang, who could stand shoulder to shoulder with Blade Master General Yi. Back then, he had killed a demon king with one punch and a demon god with 2 punches, so forget about being fired. It would only take one word for him to investigate the background, remove all that this brother had in the army, and wipe out his honor. At this thought, the 2 security guards were sighing in their hearts when they happened to see a figure appear behind Loopy Toad. Feeling a shadow looming over it, Loopy Toad subconsciously turned its head and saw an old man in a white vest and bell-bottomed pants with a bunch of keys hanging from his waist standing behind it. He was dressed exactly the same as before. Loopy Toad was blank. Wasn't this the old man who read the water meter? It still remembered Wei Ji's introduction of this old man's background. This was the landlord of the family apartment building, and one of the 10 founding generals, Battle Saint Zhang Lei. It was clear that the moment he saw Loopy Toad, Marshal Jiang couldn't help raising his eyebrows. He stared at Loopy Toad with a thoughtful expression. I remember you're from that Ji family. Wei Ji. Loopy Toad couldn't help reminding him. Wei what Ji? Wei Ji, what Wei what Ji? Chapter 479. Loopy Toad's face was very indifferent as it looked at Marshal Jiang in front of it with indifferent eyes. It had to be said that Marshal Jiang's acting was actually a little realistic. If Loopy Toad hadn't known that this Battle Saint's cultivation was so high that he wouldn't be reduced to dementia, it would have almost believed him. You can tell I'm teasing you. Marshal Jiang was amused as he crouched down to rub Loopy Toad's head. Loopy Toad vigilantly avoided him, but in the end found that it was as if there was a suction force in Marshal Jiang's palm, causing its head to involuntarily move toward Marshal Jiang's palm. Bloody hell. A sucking palm. Loopy Toad was alarmed. It knew that this old man was most likely testing it again. But it couldn't avoid it at all. After all, this was one of the 10 founding generals and a battle saint who had punched a demon god back then. Loopy Toad had no way of resisting this kind of person. At that moment, Loopy Toad actually felt a little regretful. If it had known earlier, it would have asked Wei Ji to meet somewhere else instead of coming here. This casually dressed old man gave Loopy Toad a very dangerous feeling. The moment he sucked Loopy Toad's head into his palm, Marshal Jiang couldn't help sighing in his heart. This dog's level had risen again since the last time he saw it, but how long had it been? It's only been less than a week, and it had actually gone from 3rd class to 2nd class. Marshal Jiang let go of Loopy Toad's head and couldn't help rubbing its ear as he said telepathically, if possible, you can invite your master here next time for tea. If he doesn't have time, then forget it. Loopy Toad abruptly raised its head, a little stunned. Don't be nervous. I can roughly guess your identity, but I won't do anything to you. Marshal Jiang smiled as he looked at Loopy Toad. I don't know how many demon kings and demon gods have died at this old man's hands. Later on, whenever this old man went into battle, those demon kings and demon gods would be so scared that they would break out in a sweat, and some of them would even collapse on the spot. This is because the aura of a martial sage on my body has a natural deterrent effect on demonic chi. But you don't have any demon chi on you. This proves that you're already on the right path of using spirit energy. Since your master was able to wash away your demon nature, he indeed has some ability. Loopy Toad instantly didn't dare say anything. Of course, this old man is just curious. Loopy Toad, he's very busy, this was the truth. Their young master was indeed very busy. He was busy with his midterm exams. Loopy Toad was well aware that in front of a person of this level, its lies would be seen through at a glance. Since it had already been exposed to this extent, Loopy Toad could only try its best to maneuver around. Unexpectedly, Marshal Jiang looked indifferent. He shrugged and stood up. The two security guards in the security booth saw Marshal Jiang talking and laughing with a dog at the entrance of the apartment. They couldn't help but open the window and greet, "Uncle Jiang, you're back." "Yeah, I just went out for coffee with old E. General E is also in Shanghai City." The security guard was blank. "Ha! He is different from me. I will retire when I say so. He's so bored all day that he wants to find something to do." Loopy Toad listened quietly on the side. It had a rough idea that General E was here because of Evil Sword God, and probably wouldn't be back for a while. As he chatted with the security guard, Loopy Toad watched as the old man skillfully took out an access card from his pocket and put it in the sensor area of the iron gate. The iron gate immediately gave off a crisp, beep-beep sound, and then it opened with a click. He walked in first, then stretched out his hand to hold the iron gate open as he looked at Loopy Toad. "What are you waiting for? Come in." Seeing this scene, the two security guards couldn't help trembling and their foreheads instantly broke out in sweat. Marshal Jiang personally opened the door. This dog had too much face. "Uncle Jiang, do you know this dog?" One of the security guards asked weakly as he wiped at his sweat. "It's a friend of Wei Ji's. He's here to see Wei Ji," said Marshal Jiang. Realization dawned on the two security guards. "It probably doesn't come here often, right?" "Who knows, it's normal for friends to visit each other." Marshal Jiang looked at Loopy Toad, then stretched out a finger to point at it as he stared at the two security guards. "Both of you, write this down and tell the other brothers later. From now on, this dog will be the only one at the door of this family apartment. You can let it in." Loopy Toad's gaze followed Marshal Jiang's finger, and it also felt overwhelmed by the favor. "Ah!" The two security guards were stupefied, shocked. Battle St. Jiang Lei's first privilege was actually for a green-furred dog. Marshal Jiang glanced at the two of them. "You too, my ass. If anyone else forgets to bring their access card, the same rules apply. Lock the door and wait for me to open it, or get someone else familiar with the apartment to open it for you. Do you understand?" "Oh, all right." Loopy Toad saw that the two security guards were completely stupefied. His tone sounded a little like an order, but Loopy Toad felt that it was more like a casual greeting from an old man in the neighborhood committee. After saying this, Marshal Jiang didn't linger here for long, and was about to turn around and walk toward the office of the apartment's residence committee. Before he left, Marshal Jiang thought about it carefully, and in the end, he couldn't help turning around and giving the two security guards some advice. He explained to them that he wasn't opening a back door. This was in response to the country's recent crackdown on the illegal sale of spirit beasts and its call for animal protection. What if *** King Animal Protection? Not long after Marshal Jiang left, Wei Ji appeared. "Brother dog." Wei Ji had just stepped out of the building when he saw the green figure next to the security office, and he waved in greeting from a distance. Wei Ji had also come to pick up Loopy Toad with the pushing large butterfly. It couldn't speak, and perched motionlessly on Wei Ji's shoulder. It only flapped its wings when it saw Loopy Toad. Loopy Toad dashed over, and when it reached Wei Ji, the latter pulled it aside. It noticed that Wei Ji was smiling like a lotus flower. "Brother dog, you're so awesome. Uncle Jiang personally opened the privilege for you. If outsiders found out about this, I don't know about it outside the apartment, but in this apartment, they would definitely brag about it for the rest of their lives." Loopy Toad was a little baffled. "How did you know?" "Wei Ji, Uncle Jiang told me. He knew when I went downstairs, and he sent me a telepathic message. In the apartment, whenever Uncle Jiang wants to notify someone, he basically doesn't use the phone, and can directly send a telepathic message." Loopy Toad sweated. It realized that sometimes having a high realm was indeed very convenient. "Let's go upstairs first." Wei Ji touched the elevator button and looked at Loopy Toad. "I've been thinking about giving you a gift. I happen to have something on hand recently, and I think you'll like it a lot. Loopy Toad was blank when it heard this. He wanted to give it a gift. What gift? A fly. Chapter 480. Loopy Toad had initially planned to meet Wei Ji somewhere else because it had always been afraid of that Marshal Jiang in the apartment. But judging from the old man's attitude toward it just now, Loopy Toad hadn't sensed any malice. Back then, Battle Saint Zhonglei, who was a demon king and a demon god, had been famous for his might, and who knew how many people had died at his hands like fried chicken chops. If the other party really had malice toward it, Loopy Toad felt that it should be able to sense it. Judging from Marshal Jiang's current attitude toward it, Loopy Toad felt that perhaps the other party really was just curious about it. Even so, Loopy Toad had to handle this matter cautiously. After all, Marshal Jiang had already taken a liking to little Master Ling. No matter what, Loopy Toad felt that it couldn't drag its master into this. In the elevator, Loopy Toad's expression was a little grave as it stared at Wei Ji, who was looking at it with a slanted smile. From Loopy Toad's angle, this expression looked a little wretched, and all its green fur couldn't help but tremble. You've already thought about it? Loopy Toad stared at Wei Ji and asked. To be honest, this was a little sudden. Loopy Toad actually hadn't expected Wei Ji to prepare a gift for it. Although he and Wei Ji had a pleasant conversation, they had only known each other for less than a week. Loopy Toad counted with its claws. Including today, it was exactly 7 days. No, I just happened to receive this item. It's useless to me, but it should be quite suitable for you. Out of habit, Wei Ji tugged at his hat and grinned. Besides, today is a good day. It's also our anniversary. What Memorial Day? Loopy Toad was blank. Let's join hands to take down the Demon Hunters Association's 7-day anniversary. It's also the 7th day since the Demon Hunters Association collapsed. Wei Ji said agitatedly. Loopy Toad, at this time, the elevator had arrived. Wei Ji seemed to be in a particularly good mood today. As he walked out of the elevator, he sang, "Last night's dream is over again." The end of the commercial stage adds new clothes, the old song starts again. Loopy Toad suddenly realized that Wei Ji's singing was actually pretty good, his breath and rhythm were there. The lyrics in the first half of the song were still normal, but when it came to the chorus in the second half, the styles suddenly changed. That day you and I agreed to be undercover in the Demon Hunters Association. Do you still remember? Today is the 7th day of the Demon Hunters Association. Loopy Toad. What the F******K? Wei Ji's gift seemed to have been prepared in advance. The entire 23rd floor was Wei Ji's home. In order to transform the ecological environment for the pushing large butterfly, Wei Ji had spent a lot of money to transform the living room. However, there were still a lot of empty rooms left. It wasn't that Wei Ji didn't want to renovate them, but that he was really short of money during this period of time. The gift for Loopy Toad was in one of the empty rooms, and Wei Ji brought it to the room. Then, he removed the black cloth that was covering the gifts in the room. Dang, 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 dang. Loopy Toad. Then, Loopy Toad saw a square glass jar, and inside the jar was a large bone about the thickness of an adult man's arm and more than 178 meters long. The joints of the bones were uneven. From the looks of it, it was a broken bone, the kind that had been broken by a huge force. Sure enough, he was going to deliver his own bones. Loopy Toad felt that this was completely within reason and wasn't surprised at all. In a situation where Wei Ji didn't know his true identity, it would be strange if he sent him a fly. How is it, brother dog? Do you like it? Wei Ji smiled as he looked at Loopy Toad. For some reason, he felt that this dog's reaction to bones was a little cold, but Wei Ji didn't give it any advice at all, because this just showed how unusual Loopy Toad was. When a normal spirit dog saw such a large bone, its eyes would definitely have already been sucked in and it wouldn't have been able to move. The gift isn't bad. Loopy Toad had actually already expected this gift, so it wasn't too pleasantly surprised. But in the end, this was Wei Ji's kind intentions. Thus, in a short moment, Loopy Toad quickly reviewed the 300 poems and idioms it had memorized when learning Chinese characters in its mind. For a moment, it suddenly realized that it was actually at a loss for words. If it had known earlier, it would have looked for a few spirit dogs to experiment on and see how they reacted when they received the bones. Now that it was a dog, Loopy Toad felt that it should put its heart and soul into this role. Even if it didn't like bones, it should at least act like one. It felt that Wei Ji would be very disappointed to see its current reaction. Loopy Toad sighed in its heart and walked over to the glass jar. But then again, it felt that this bone was a little too big, and it looked like the bone of some gigantic spirit beast. Loopy Toad wanted to get a little closer to take a closer look, but in the end, it suddenly smelled blood on the bone. The smell of blood was very faint, and Loopy Toad wouldn't have been able to smell it at all if it wasn't up close. It could only smell it when it was right next to the jar. And Loopy Toad was very familiar with the smell of blood on the bone. This was the blood of a holy beast. Loopy Toad was taken aback. It never thought that this would actually be the bone of a holy beast. Judging from the smell of blood on the bone, Loopy Toad thought that this bone actually wasn't very old, and was probably around 200 years old. 200 years was more or less enough for the smell of blood to evaporate to this extent. But for a holy beast with a long lifespan, a mere 200 years was nothing more than a snap of the fingers. Furthermore, from the bone's glossy appearance, it was clear that it had been carefully cleaned by someone. A holy beast bone that actually wasn't that old. Apart from Little Silver, were there really any other holy beasts alive in this world? Loopy Toad started to ponder. Seeing that Loopy Toad was lost in thought, Wei Ji didn't disturb it. He felt that this brother dog was really a little amazing. A normal dog would have already given up when it saw this kind of bone, but brother dog actually looked like it was thinking about its dog life. Wei Ji felt that this was the gap between Loopy Toad and other dogs. While those dogs were still obsessed with the bone and itching to pounce on it and take a few bites, brother dog was actually able to remain reserved and thoughtful. This was too rare. Wei Ji felt that Loopy Toad's spiritual intelligence had already developed to a very high level, and might even have surpassed those rumored first-class spirit beasts who had already taken human form. Where did you get this bone? After a moment, Loopy Toad tried hard to suppress its astonishment as it turned to ask Wei Ji. Cupping his chin, Wei Ji thought for a moment before he explained, "This is actually a collection of our Pet Trainers Guild's vice president. I think he picked it up when he was traveling back then. Apart from some cracks in the joints, the bone is actually very beautiful, like a crystal. Our vice president was curious, so he kept it, until recently, when he played Fight the Landlord with me and lost to me." Loopy Toad was stunned. What kind of operation was this? Wei Ji, oh, that's right, this bone actually has a name. The vice president named it Bone King. Chapter 481. Loopy Toad stared at the holy beast bone for a long time, and couldn't help secretly swallowing at the lingering smell of holy beast blood on it. However, it really wasn't interested in the bone. It was because the lingering smell of holy beast blood on it was too fragrant. Holy beast blood had a special smell that even spirit beasts with poor senses of smell could smell. At first, it didn't feel anything, but it would soon become addicted. Loopy Toad didn't know if it was because it had been soaked in Little Silver's holy blood, but it always felt like it was a little more sensitive. "You really want to give it to me?" Loopy Toad looked at Wei Ji. It was very obvious that neither Crying Old Immortal nor Wei Ji, the vice president of the Pet Trainers Guild, could tell the origin of this bone, otherwise they definitely wouldn't have given it away as an ordinary beast bone. The main reason was that the holy beast blood on the bone had evaporated too thoroughly. Loopy Toad felt that if its cultivation hadn't increased recently, it probably wouldn't have been able to smell it. Its face was almost pressed against the glass tank, it had to be this close to be able to smell it. It's just a bone. Wei Ji spread his hands indifferently. Besides, I won it anyway, so I didn't lose anything. But the vice president felt sorry for it for a long time. Why? There's a fenrir at the vice president's house that howls every night, but as long as the vice president throws it this bone, it'll calm down. I heard that the fenrir licks this bone like it's a real cicada. Wei Ji pursed his lips and laughed. I reckon that the vice president will have to rely on sleeping pills for this fenrir to get by. It's that serious. That fenrir is like this when it's in heat. Loopy Toad suddenly felt that it wasn't kind of nice to just accept the bones so openly. Then should I give it back to him? Although it said that, Loopy Toad still opened its mouth and used the Toad Clan space swallowing spell to suck the entire bone in. Wei Ji. Brother dog, you really do have something. Loopy Toad was very familiar with this action. Almost every human cultivator had done it when they were little when they received red envelopes during the new year, saying that it wasn't good to accept red envelopes while stuffing them into their pockets. It was a classic case of saying no, but its body being very honest. Putting the Bone King in its mouth, Loopy Toad had already decided to look for Little Silver later to study this bone's origin. At most, it could only determine that it was a holy beast bone based on its blood. At most, it could tell that this was a holy beast bone from the blood. But there was one thing that Loopy Toad was very concerned about. It looked at Wei Ji and asked, I remember that fenrir isn't from our country, right? There's spirit beasts from Western Europe, but we call them spirit beasts here, while they're used to calling them magical beasts over there. As a professional pet trainer, Wei Ji actually knew this type of culture very well. On one hand, it was because the scent on the bone was too faint, and on the other hand, Loopy Toad hadn't expected it. The announcement of the extinction of holy beasts had actually been posted a long time ago, dating back to 1,000 years ago at the earliest. After so many years, Weeping Old Immortal himself probably hadn't expected that the bone he had picked up on his travels would actually be the bone of a holy beast. After hearing Wei Ji explain that the concept of spirit beast was different in China and abroad, Loopy Toad felt that it needed to learn a little about foreign history and culture. Loopy Toad's knowledge of foreign history and culture was too limited. The most important thing was that it didn't even fully understand what it was like in China. Huaxiao Nation had been founded for nearly 5,000 years, and if rounded up, that was 100 million. Huaxiao was a country with a long history of culture, a galaxy of talents, a land of etiquette, and a united people. When the Gate Between Worlds had first invaded back then, the united Huaxiao cultivators had actually taught those invading demon kings and demon gods a harsh lesson. There were too many things to learn. Thinking this, Loopy Toad pondered for a moment before asking, by the way, do foreign countries have the concept of holy beasts? Wei Ji nodded. Yes. But they're still called different things. Foreigners call holy beasts soul beasts. But it seems that there are still a few of them alive and well, while ours are completely gone. Loopy Toad sighed. Because of a rumor back then, holy beasts actually suffered such a calamity, how pitiful. Then what class is that fenrir from the vice president's house? The only thing Loopy Toad remembered was that whether it was at home or abroad, the standard for identifying spirit beasts, devil beasts, was actually the same. It's an 8th class seedling, and it's only 300 years old. But fenrir has a very long lifespan. If it's nurtured well, it can grow to 1st class at most. Only 8th class. Loopy Toad instantly heaved a huge sigh of relief. Fortunately, it was only 8th class. Although it was already 300 years old, there was a limit to the intelligence of an 8th class spirit beast. Considering its age, that 8th class fenrir actually only had the IQ of a 2 or 3-year-old human. At this stage, forget the holy beast bone. Even if Loopy Toad pulled Little Silver in front of this guy, fenrir might not be able to recognize it as a genuine holy beast. Now that this Bone King had fallen into Loopy Toad's hands, this Fenrir would definitely have a problem with it. Loopy Toad had actually been a little worried that this Fenrir would tell crying old immortal about how precious this bone was. But now, this concern was completely dispelled. In crying old immortal's eyes, this immature Fenrir was probably more like a child whose toy had been taken away. Loopy Toad couldn't help teasing him. By the way, these foreign devil beasts really mature early. They're only 300 years old and they're already in heat. TSK, you haven't seen it. Wei Ji gestured with his hands. Even a 300-year-old Fenrir is as big as 2 adult spirit lions. Loopy Toad, so big? Wei Ji nodded. A fully grown Fenrir can grow to the size of a villa at most. But an adult Fenrir can learn to control its size on its own, and it's very loyal. The most difficult stage to deal with is when it's in heat. Speaking up to this point, Wei Ji couldn't help sking. Brother Dog, you haven't seen it. When I went to the vice president's house last time, I was so shocked by the thing down there. It's too big. I'm so envious. Loopy Toad, Wei Ji couldn't stop sighing. In order to deal with Fenrir's heat, the vice president actually had a lot of female Fenrir dolls custom-made, but they were all broken by it. Loopy Toad was silent for a moment before it said, "You can send me one later." Wei Ji laughed loudly. Brother Dog, it's not that I'm looking down on you, but that doll was custom-made for Fenrir by the Dean. You definitely won't feel comfortable using it. Don't you know there's no truth in this? Loopy Toad, you misunderstand. I just want to ask a friend of mine to reinforce it, so that it'll never break in the future. Actually, the method Loopy Toad was talking about was for Little Master Ling to enchant it. He didn't need any extra attributes, and just needed to increase the doll's durability and toughness to the max. Loopy Toad felt that this was the only thing it could do for that poor Fenrir. It understood that a doll that would never break in exchange for a Bone King wasn't a loss at all. Chapter 482. After this incident, Loopy Toad suddenly realized that there were a lot of people who kept devil beasts. It was the same for the members of the Demon Hunters Association whom it had run into at the Aptitude Assessment Center, and the leader of the group had a bone dragon with him. Loopy Toad had thought that it was a Western spirit beast, and hadn't expected it to actually have a completely different name in Western countries. After confirming that it had received Wei Ji's gift, Loopy Toad and Wei Ji went out. Loopy Toad had already picked out a place beforehand. One person and one dog needed to relieve stress. Loopy Toad needed to relax as soon as possible because it had recently absorbed the Sword Dao Inheritance Talisman, which would make it easier for it to absorb the talisman. Wei Ji, on the other hand, was purely because he lacked money, which was why he was under so much pressure. Wei Ji sat in the driver's seat in his car. Where are we going? Loopy Toad sent the location to Wei Ji. To the internet cafe, but it's a little far. Wei Ji was taken aback. You can play games. Loopy Toad spread its paws. Can't I just learn how to play? Wei Ji sucked in a cold breath. But very quickly, he realized that this wasn't the crux of the problem. Because it occurred to him that spirit beasts were forbidden from entering an internet cafe. The problem is, Brother Dog, how are you going to get in? Wei Ji asked. This is an internet cafe that's willing to cooperate with Lord Island. Lord Island has already talked to the owner of the cafe to close for today to give us a spot. Brother Dog knows Lord Island. Wei Ji's face was full of amazement. Loopy Toad's expression showed that it had seen too much. Of course it knew Daoist Guang, and it was actually quite a coincidence that after it had added grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Little Master Ling as friends, the chat software had actually sent a Daoist Guang's account as a friend recommendation. Look at the fan list, that Immortal 2 is me. Don't look at Lord Island like that, he actually dotes on his fans. Of course, this was just Loopy Toad making up nonsense. Daoist Guang had helped Loopy Toad get in touch with the internet cafe last night. Because his live streaming career had been like the sun at high noon recently, there were actually a lot of internet cafe owners who wanted to work with him. Suspending business for a day was a small matter, but given Daoist Guang's current influence and the fact that he was cooperating with a certain internet cafe in the live stream room, the internet cafe's popularity would definitely soar. Loopy Toad took its phone out of its mouth and looked at the message. Seeing that Daoist Guang had already replied to it, it immediately said to Wei Ji, "Lord Island has already organized the water friends and is just waiting for the two of us. The two of us team up, Lord Island and his #1 fan team up, and we'll win chicken dinner as a duo." Alright, looking at the location sent by Loopy Toad, the corners of Wei Ji's mouth couldn't help twitching. He then stepped on the accelerator and drove slowly toward the internet cafe. Although it was a little far, Wei Ji remembered that the location seemed to have been an upscale residential area that hadn't been fully developed, so Wei Ji guessed that this internet cafe was definitely new. Furthermore, the location information that Loopy Toad had sent him didn't even show the name of the internet cafe. Only new internet cafes would cooperate with each other to increase their popularity. Old internet cafes had their own regular customers, so it was not worth it. Moreover, if it was an old internet cafe, the name of the internet cafe would have appeared on the navigation device. This internet cafe is newly opened, right? What's its name? Wei Ji asked. Loopy Toad, Xinqing. Wei Ji, on the other side, Loopy Toad and Wei Ji had just set off when Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal received a message from Wang Ling. Because it was the weekend, this great death-courting Senior Immortal was in the basement researching his next death-courting operation. Recently, a person with the ID, Chorus, had used the internet to openly instigate a 10-year-old girl to play romantic games. If you don't understand, please refer to the encyclopedia. In the end, the girl's parent found out. After that, Collis posted his chat records with the girl's parents on the internet, and once again instigated the girl to run away from home. Then, he used his own fans to create momentum, verbally attacked the girl's parents, and even criticized them for being conservative. However, the girl's parent wasn't someone to be trifled with. The girl's mother couldn't stand this chorus, and as a veteran player of World of Warcraft, she directly went to the game forum to thoroughly expose this matter. In the end, what this chorus hadn't expected was that this incident would instantly spark a lot of public opinion on the internet. Now, netizens were even crowdfunding a bounty to launch a nationwide manhunt for Chorus. When Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal saw this, he simply felt that this Chorus was simply courting death. He actually dared provoke the sons and daughters of Azeroth. The sons and daughters of Azeroth couldn't be touched, and the descendants of Azeroth even more couldn't be touched. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had always been very enthusiastic when it came to dealing with this kind of scum of society. He didn't even need a reward. He had just sent this Chorus ID to Little Black and wanted Little Black to help him check this person's address. In fact, Little Black had done a lot of investigating people's identities based on just an online ID. There were times when Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had always thought that it would be great if he could use a network cable or Wi-Fi to beat up these scum of society hiding online. In the end, not long after he had entrusted this task to Little Black, Wang Ling suddenly sent him a message a few minutes later. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was also blank when he saw Wang Ling's message, because it said that Loopy Toad had disappeared. When did this happen? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal immediately put down the work at hand. But intuitively, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that this brother dog didn't seem like someone who would run away from home. Perhaps it had something to do, or perhaps it had made some friends. Brother Silver. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal raised his head and directly spoke telepathically to Little Silver, who was lying on the sofa on the first floor with a broccoli pillow in his arms. Little Silver was barefoot and swinging his little legs up and down. He was reading online about the special cooking methods for all kinds of crispy noodle snacks. Although the most basic method was to sprinkle seasoning, crush them and eat them dry, Little Silver felt that he should add some spice to his boring life. Hearing Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal call him, Little Silver subconsciously stuck his head out of the sofa and looked at the floor. Then, he directly poked a hole in the floor with his finger. Looking down the hole, he happened to see Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Little Silver, what are you doing? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Brother Silver, speak properly if you want to, don't poke holes in my house's floor. Little Silver pursed his lips. Fine, I got it. If you have something to say, hurry up and say it, I'm busy. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, have you seen Brother Dog? Brother Ling said that it's been going out early and coming back late these last 2 days, and its movements look very suspicious. Oh, you mean it? Little Silver thought for a moment, then replied, I don't know where it is, but it told me a while ago that it would go out to have fun. The hell? Have fun? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was startled. Chapter 483. Although that was what Little Silver had said, there were times when Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal didn't think it was reliable. Catching an adulterer in bed. This was a society ruled by law. Everything had to be based on evidence. From a rational point of view, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that as Ling Jinren's imperial spirit beast, Brother Dog absolutely wasn't just a simple green-furred dog. This was a dog that, under the influence of Ling Jinren's good virtue, had a proper outlook on life and was free from vulgar interests. Putting together Little Silver's confession and Loopy Toad's various illogical actions, it indeed looked like it had gone out to look for its dog girlfriend, but the problem was that Brother Dog wasn't a real dog before it became a dog. Do as the Romans do. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal thought this was a very suspicious point. Secondly, as Ling Jinren's dog, and with its current cultivation at level 2, it shouldn't be unable to suppress something as simple as lust. But given Little Silver's personality, he was inexperienced in human society and relatively pure to begin with. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal didn't think he would lie. Also, he felt that it was highly likely that Little Silver didn't fully understand the word looking for fun. After all, Cathayan culture was broad and profound. In different contexts, the meaning of a word was completely different. In fact, he had been misinterpreted many times. Previously, there had been groundless rumors. They had been friends with Guan and Bao, and now they could even distort the words broad and profound into invigorating. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that if Cangjie saw these words, he would definitely be so angry that he would raise his hand and fire an earth blast heavenly star. Brother Silver, can you send me the chat records from that time? So in order to solve the case, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal could only raise his head and stare at the hole in the ceiling which Little Silver had just poked with his finger. Actually, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal thought that this hole sounded round, and that it had actually been made pretty well. Furthermore, the light from the first floor just happened to shine through this hole onto the table in the basement, so there wasn't even a need to turn on the lights. But contrary to Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's expectations, Little Silver was actually quite resistant. Absolutely not. Little Silver's answer was very firm. On one hand, this matter involved privacy, and on the other hand, Little Silver actually had his own considerations. He was a saint beast, yet he had humbly begged a second-grade spirit beast to do something for him. He had even given it a red packet. If outsiders were to see this, how embarrassing would it be? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sighed and didn't say anything else. This matter involved privacy, so it wasn't good for him to force it. At that moment, the phone on the table vibrated, and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal saw that Wang Ling had sent another message. Guyuan New District. Because of the Spirit Beast contract, Wang Ling could get a rough idea of where Loopy Toad was, but he couldn't pinpoint its exact location. The only thing he could do now was to ask Little Black to do as much as he could with the narrowed range. But Guyuan New District? Isn't that a new development zone? Why would Brother Dog go to such a place? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal knew that a lot of the entertainment facilities there hadn't been completed yet. There wasn't a large cultivation shopping mall like Yida nearby, and there wasn't even a sauna leisure center. First of all, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had already thrown out the possibility of washing his feet. Furthermore, if a dog with such an obvious coat and who could talk ran off to a place like a leisure center to wash its feet, it would probably make the papers right away. Thinking this, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal stopped typing, and directly chose to send Wang Ling a voice message. "Brother Ling, wait a minute. I'll talk to Little Black right away and have him find the exact location right away." But before he could finish speaking, Little Silver immediately interrupted him. "Wait, Grenade-throwing. Don't send it to Master yet." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was so frightened by Little Silver's cry that he almost loosened his fingers, but in the end, he swiped up and very familiarly cancelled the send. "What's going on, Brother Silver?" It was very obvious that Little Silver had received some explosive news, and couldn't hold back at all. Then, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal heard a loud boom above his head. Little Silver directly punched a hole in the floor and jumped down. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal looked up at the ceiling, and sucked in a breath of cold air. "Brother Silver, do you have a grudge against my floorboards?" His family's floorboards were made of the best sapphire marble. They were custom-made. Looking at the big hole in the ceiling, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal suddenly felt like crying but had no tears to shed. Grenade-throwing, Grenade-throwing. Look at this." Little Silver patted the dust off his body and straightaway handed over his phone. It was a screenshot of the live stream room. The moment he saw the screenshot, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was blank. Isn't this?" He almost said Daoist Guang. Little Silver didn't know about Daoist Guang's existence. As the informative evil sword god and the Immortal's treasure house, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Wang Ling had decided to keep Daoist Guang's identity a secret for the time being. "Grenade-throwing, you should know him, he's the live streamer who's been very popular recently," Little Silver said excitedly. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal nodded calmly. I know. This already wasn't a question of knowing, he and Daoist Guang were already brothers. Look here." Little Silver stretched out his finger and pointed at a spot in the screenshot. It was a bullet message in the live stream room, which read, "Immortal 2 and his friends are on their way to the internet cafe. Lord Island has already recruited water friends in his fan group. Everyone enthusiastically participate. Lord Island will randomly select water friends. This is a rare opportunity." Staring at this bullet message, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was instantly dazed. Immortal 2. Wasn't this Brother Dog's online ID? When Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal opened the live stream room, Lord Island was already online, and the public screen in the live stream room was specially marked with a string of words. "This online water friend activity is specially sponsored by Axian Xing Internet Cafe." Not only that, Daoist Guang had even directly put the internet cafe's address on the public screen. It was in Guyuan New District. Well, Little Black actually didn't need to make a move now. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal could more or less guess what was going on, so he immediately took a screenshot of the live stream room and then sent it to the 3-person chat group that they had formed with Daoist Guang. "Brother Guang, are you preparing to play online with Brother Ling's dog to eat chicken?" Wang Ling. Wang Ling had already seen this message when it popped up, and he had been staring at the chat box the whole time. He saw the screenshot Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had sent, which already had Loopy Toad's online ID circled in a red box among the bullet messages. Wang Ling's face couldn't help twitching. So this guy had gone to the internet cafe to play games. Wang Ling suddenly felt. Chapter 484. Daoist Guang had always been very respectful of Wang Ling, because from the very beginning, he had already guessed that Wang Ling was a serious venerated immortal big shot. Back then, Wang Ling had brandished his 3-5 exam papers and smashed the remnants of evil sword chi left behind by evil sword gods having cleaving sword into smithereens. Daoist Guang still remembered the scene vividly, so how could someone at his level be in touch with this kind of senior? Thus, Daoist Guang paid special attention to the settings of their 3-person chat group as well as Wang Ling's personal account. No matter how busy he was, as soon as there was any activity in the 3-person chat group or Wang Ling, he would be able to reply immediately. So when he saw the messages from grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Wang Ling, Daoist Guang couldn't help staring blankly. Senior Ling's spirit beast did indeed contact me, but I thought Senior Ling already knew about it, so I made the arrangements. Wang Ling, seeing Daoist Guang's message, blue veins popped on Wang Ling's forehead. This guy had actually learned to act first and report later. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sent a facepalm emoji. But the problem is that Brother Ling didn't know at all, Brother Guang. Daoist Guang also sent a facepalm. Then, cancel it. Daoist Guang knew that canceling this Water Friends match at the last minute would actually be a huge loss of popularity. Even though he was extremely talented in live streaming, if this happened, it would still be considered a live streaming accident. He would definitely lose fans, and it would also be easy for people to make fun of him. On the live streaming platform now, those unknown small live streamers were watching him closely from behind. Any bit of gossip would be grasped by these sour grapes people, and then they would use words to modify and exaggerate it, and it would become a dark history. The worst thing about live streaming was a dark history, which was why Lord Island was usually very careful about this. Daoist Guang had come up with this experience after reading about all kinds of live streamers who had been banned by all platforms online. Furthermore, as an entertainment live streamer in particular, the faster you became popular, the easier it was for people to target you. Thus, Daoist Guang felt that entertainment also had to be controlled. Furthermore, he had to spread positive energy to his audience in live streams every day. Funny was funny, but he couldn't be too entertaining. Brother Guang, don't worry. Let's listen to Brother Ling's opinion. The chat group sank into silence. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sighed and said, by the way, does Brother Guang know why Brother Dog suddenly started playing games, and with a friend? Who is that friend? Daoist Guang nodded, because he had asked Loopy Toad the same question at that time. Ling Jinren and Brother Lei should know about Brother Dog's friend, and are very familiar with him. Brother Dog and that young man exposed the Demon Hunters Association incident a while ago. That person's surname is Wei. Oh. It's him. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal instantly understood. Actually, this had happened 7 days ago. After Loopy Toad and Wei Ji had reported the Demon Hunters Association's black market, in the end, it had been Odd Zhua who had led a large number of people over to arrest Strong Zhua and his gang. Wei Ji had been the first eyewitness, and at the same time, he had represented the Pet Trainers Guild in a line with local police forces to clean up the rest of the Demon Hunters Association forces. Back then, in order to obtain this first-hand information, he posted it on his cultivation forum. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had actually been at the scene when Odd Zhua had interrogated Strong Zhua and his gang, as well as when Wei Ji had taken the witness statement. Wei Ji's mouth had been tightly sealed, and he hadn't mentioned Loopy Toad in his entire statement, taking all the blame on himself. At that time, both Odd Zhua and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had felt that this person was quite loyal. Now, the remnants of the Demon Hunters Association outside were making all kinds of threats against Wei Ji, but Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had only seen Wei Ji and not Loopy Toad. In fact, however, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal didn't know that Loopy Toad had in fact been targeted by the higher-ups of the Demon Hunters Association long before Strong Zhua had been arrested, thanks to Strong Zhua's soul-marking method. But things had actually taken a turn for the better, because after he had discovered it, he had transferred the soul marking to Little Silver in passing. At that moment, President Bai's servant from the Demon Hunters Association, the tree goblin Mr. Liu, nicknamed the Forest Goblin, had already set out and was at the entrance to Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's Villa District. According to the location information provided by Immortal Castle, this was the home of that green-furred dog. Mr. Liu, who was leaning on a walking stick, was dressed in a smart suit, had combed his white hair back, and wore a monocle. From a distance, he looked like a Western aristocrat. The lady of the castle said that this is where that beast lives. Mr. Liu took a deep breath and looked at the locator in his hand. This was a product that the lady of the castle had developed through remote big data analysis and Immortal Castle's latest positioning technology. As long as you followed the pointer on the locator, you would be able to accurately find the locator's specific location. According to the lady of the castle, this locator had been specially designed to pay tribute to the dragon people who had once existed in history. It was modeled after the magic disc which the dragon people had made in order to search for the Dragon Balls. Leaning on his walking stick, Mr. Liu walked toward the main entrance. The security guard at the entrance stopped him. "Sir, may I ask who you are looking for?" Mr. Liu looked ahead calmly and said very calmly, "I'm the owner." The security guard was startled. "But sir, why haven't I seen you before?" "Mr. Liu, I usually sit in the car, so it's normal that you don't know me. Are you new here? How about you call your team leader over and see if he recognizes me?" When he asked this question, Mr. Liu's voice was powerful and resonant, as if he really had a few villas in this villa district. This scared the little security guard into a daze. Most importantly, judging from Mr. Liu's attire, this little security guard indeed had the air of an aristocrat about him. For some reason, when he was next to this person, the little security guard felt that even the air seemed a lot fresher. It was as if he had inhaled oxygen on a plateau. The little security guard was a little intoxicated. "Ah, what's with this refreshing feeling? Could it be, was this the legendary aura of an aristocrat?" Mr. Liu, the little security guard didn't dare slight him at all. He pressed the smart door button in passing and opened it. No need, Mr. Liu, right, please come in." There was no need for the team leader to personally deal with such a small matter. If it really was some big shot in this district that he had missed, he would definitely be the one to be criticized. Mr. Liu smiled slightly and walked in unhurriedly. People nowadays were really easy to fool. Why was it that standing next to him gave him a refreshing feeling, as if he had inhaled oxygen? Nonsense. Chapter 485. In the chat group, Daoist Guang and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal were waiting for news from Wang Ling. Daoist Guang even paused the live stream for a bit. His water friends thought that he had gone to the toilet, so they weren't in a hurry to urge him, and the bullet messages were still full of joy. It wasn't hard to see that Daoist Guang's fans, light chasers, were of extremely high quality. Nowadays, as the age of the bullet messages got younger and younger, a lot of them were either starting a war or setting the tone for the anti-fans, and couldn't be read at all. Reality proved that it was actually very important to have a group of high-quality fans. The two of them didn't wait long before Wang Ling sent a screenshot in the chat group. It was the official download for PUBG, and the progress bar was already more than halfway through. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was startled. "Brother Ling, you're going to join the battle. You rarely play games." Alright, actually, this screenshot already fully explained the problem. But in Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's impression, it seemed that Wang Ling rarely took the initiative to play games since he had known him. Usually, when he saw Wang Ling, he was either reading or studying. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal guessed that Wang Ling's ultimate goal in choosing to join the battle this time was definitely to thoroughly understand Loopy Toad's recent series of abnormal actions. Daoist Guang's interest was piqued. If Senior Ling wants to join the battle, that's great. It'll definitely be livelier this way. But Brother Lei, you said that Senior Ling rarely plays games. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal swiftly recovered. "Brother Guang, you don't have to worry about that at all. Brother Ling thinks it'll be quick. After all, it had only taken Brother Ling 10 minutes to go from a bronze weaponsmith to a king weaponsmith. How hard would it be for him to memorize a few key positions in the game? Alright. Daoist Guang sent an okay emoji. Let's go back. I'll set up a custom mode first and set the password, then drag Senior Ling and Brother Lei in first. I'll join the battle too. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't help laughing. Daoist Guang, I've already made an appointment with my #1 fan, and that brother dog will also bring his friend with the surname Wei. We'll be playing as a duo, with 100 people and 50 teams. We can't let Senior Ling and his water friends form a team. Actually, Daoist Guang's reason for forcibly dragging grenade-throwing Senior Immortal in was quite simple, because he knew very well that Senior Ling didn't like to talk much. If he really entered the game, it was very likely that he would become a lone hero. It would be fine if he teamed up with someone he was familiar with, but if he met someone he wasn't familiar with, he might start cursing. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sent a teary smile emoji. Alright then. But I haven't played for a long time, so I should be able to update it soon. Holding his phone, Little Silver sat on a broccoli sofa in the basement and stared at grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Grenade-throwing, what are you talking about? You look so happy. It was only then that grenade-throwing Senior Immortal raised his head and said, Brother Ling might come to the villa later, and we'll team up to eat chicken with Lord Island. Master is coming to the villa. For some reason, Little Silver suddenly became excited. You're going to queue with that Lord Island? Grenade-throwing, so you know Lord Island. We're pretty familiar with each other. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal nodded. F***CK. Please help me ask him for an autograph. He was doing a live broadcast on that isolated island. How could he find so much fun when he was so bored? He's my idol. I have nothing to do at home every day. Little Silver said excitedly. Autograph. Wait, I'll ask. After talking to Little Silver, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal immediately sent a message to Daoist Guang. Autograph. Daoist Guang quickly replied, I don't have any paper here. How about I ask Senior Ling to burn some for me later? Do you have a record? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal somehow felt that this sounded a little strange. Daoist Guang thought for a while and said, then I can only sign on a coconut. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. On the other side, Loopy Toad and Wei Ji had already arrived at Xianxing Internet Cafe. The boss of the Internet Cafe was a young man who looked a little dispirited. He had a light stubble on his face and his hair was disheveled, as if he had just woken up. With a cigarette in his mouth, he stood at the door and looked at Wei Ji and Loopy Toad before blowing out a smoke ring. Lord Island introduced you, right? Yes. Wei Ji nodded. The young boss scratched his bangs and crouched on the floor as he looked at Loopy Toad. It's fine if you can speak, Lord Island already told me. Loopy Toad thought this boss was a little interesting. Don't you think it's strange? My family has been running internet cafes for 8 generations, what kind of monsters haven't they seen? The boss smiled with a cigarette in his mouth, took out his keys, and led Wei Ji and Loopy Toad into the internet cafe. Come with me. After entering, Loopy Toad and Wei Ji were startled by the wide field of view. This internet cafe was very big. There were already too many machines in the main hall alone, and all of them were top-notch. The decor was also very elegant, and it gave off a very high-end vibe. There are 500 machines in total in this main hall. If you count the black rooms, the VIP rooms, and the presidential rooms, I have no less than 1,200 machines here. Saying this, the boss lit another cigarette. He had already finished smoking the last one. You should have a lot of people here, right? Asked Loopy Toad. The boss rubbed his head and thought for a bit before saying, including the two of you, you're the 5th customer of my internet cafe. The first three were all scared off. Scared off. No money to go online. How much per hour? 60. 60 isn't expensive. Wei Ji felt that in this kind of environment and with this kind of setup, 60 actually wasn't expensive. The boss, Immortal Gold. Wei Ji and Loopy Toad. Without saying a word on the way, the young boss took Wei Ji and Loopy Toad to a black room, which was clearly marked with the price, 100 immortal gold per minute. The boss had said 60 immortal gold previously, and that was only the price in the main hall. The boss, you too can use this one. I've already adjusted the machines for you in advance. Wei Ji smiled. The area around Guyuan New District is still under development, so there are actually fewer residents, so naturally there won't be many customers. Generally speaking, internet cafes have a big opening sale. It's true that the boss has such a setup, but it's still a little expensive. Also, I don't understand why the boss opened an internet cafe here. Opening an internet cafe of my own is my lifelong wish. Also, my family runs internet cafes, and now it's passed down to my generation. I'm a little lazy, and I'm usually too lazy to take care of it. I have to go through the customer information of over 1,000 internet cafes every week, and I'm really too busy. The boss looked very melancholy. So, I sold all of my family's chain of over 1,000 internet cafes and merged them into this one. Wei Ji and Loopy Toad, the boss laughed. Then I realized that although things are easier now, business is gone. That's why I chose to work with Lord Island this time. Rich customers will naturally come to me. Loopy Toad thought that this internet cafe boss was a strange person, and was a classic example of someone who didn't properly inherit family property. Wei Ji, I haven't asked, what's your surname, boss? My surname is Yi. The boss leaned against the door with a cigarette in his mouth and blew out a long stream of smoke. Chapter 486. It was obvious that this internet cafe's boss Yi was a man with a story. It could be said that his family was already very powerful to be able to own over 1,000 internet cafe chains. Huaxiao Nation was too big and full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. In Songhai City alone, Loopy Toad felt that it already knew a lot of strange people. Wei Ji and Loopy Toad sat side by side and turned on their computers. This was an ordinary private room for 5 people, and the largest one had 10 people. But the configuration of all the private rooms was almost the same, and there wasn't much difference except that the rooms were a little smaller. But while it was small, Loopy Toad noticed that each private room had its own washroom, which could be said to be quite humane. In addition to the service call button next to the computer, there were also self-service drink racks and snack racks on the side of the private room. If you wanted to order something, you could directly scan the code to pay. But now, the drink and snack racks on the side were just for show, and they were completely empty. For one thing, Boss Yi hadn't fully prepared everything for the internet cafe he had bought. For another, Boss Yi was a little short on money now, and he couldn't recruit staff to help him. Boss Yi was a relatively lazy person, and it would be best if he could find someone to take inventory of the snack and drink racks every day and replenish them in time. If Boss Yi had to watch over so many private rooms by himself, Loopy Toad would feel tired. Boss Yi waited for Wei Ji and Loopy Toad to turn on their computers. After confirming that there were no problems, he silently finished smoking the cigarette in his hand, then twisted it out in the ashtray, and turned on the ventilation button next to the lights. You two don't smoke, right? Wei Ji, I don't, Boss Yi nodded. That's good, the entire internet cafe is non-smoking. Loopy Toad couldn't help ridiculing him. Then why do you still smoke? Boss Yi laughed. Who told me to be the boss? Wei Ji and Loopy Toad, but I'm guessing that some people definitely don't follow the rules, so I specially designed this smoke exhaust system. As he spoke, Boss Yi took out 2 bottles of mineral water from his storage bag and threw them to Loopy Toad and Wei Ji. This is all the shop has now. I'm short on money, so make do with it. Wei Ji took the mineral water. Thank you, boss. You don't want to play. It's just a game, it's all the same. I'm sick of it. I'm going to the lounge next door to take a nap. Boss Yi yawned and stretched. As he walked out, he said, if there's any problem with the computer, call me. If there's no problem, you two can leave directly after using the computer. Remember to close the door for me. Bang! Then, the door of the private room was closed tightly by Boss Yi. Loopy Toad, this Boss Yi is quite interesting. Yes. Wei Ji nodded. He always felt that this Boss Yi's temperament was somewhat similar to a legendary person, but it wasn't quite the same. After turning on the computer, the first thing Loopy Toad did was log into the chat software. Daoist Guang had already added it to the Water Friends group, which currently had 5 people, including Loopy Toad and Daoist Guang. The rest were Daoist Guang's #1 fan, has 3 days and 2 sleeps been updated, grenade-throwing senior immortal and a person Loopy Toad had never seen before with the ID, study well. Loopy Toad raised an eyebrow. Senior immortal, you're also participating in the competition. Yes, brother dog. I'm just bored, so I came to play a few rounds. Grenade-throwing senior immortal replied on the screen. About 30 seconds ago, Wang Ling had teleported to grenade-throwing senior immortal's house, and was now looking at him from behind. This study well account was actually grenade-throwing senior immortal's alternate account. This alternate account had been a special account that grenade-throwing senior immortal had used to gather intelligence in other chat groups before the cultivation forum had been established. It had actually been a long time since he had used it, but the account's age and level were very high. Of course, this account's previous ID hadn't been study well, which Wang Ling had changed after borrowing it. In fact, grenade-throwing senior immortal felt that Wang Ling's hints were very obvious on every level. Unfortunately, Loopy Toad had no idea who on earth the owner of this account was. That was because as long as Wang Ling wasn't online, his QQ would usually be offline, and he wouldn't choose to hang out online. Hence, the account's level was lower than that of the average person. When Loopy Toad saw this account's level, its first impression was the strongest, and it never thought that the person using this account would be Wang Ling. After staring at the name for a long time, Loopy Toad asked cautiously, Senior Immortal, may I ask who this senior is? Grenade-throwing senior immortal, because it's a duo mode this time, I found a friend at the last minute. He's not in the chat group, so you might not know him. Loopy Toad nodded and didn't suspect anything. It would be great if my little master could play games. When Taoist Guang and grenade-throwing senior immortal saw this, their hearts couldn't help thumping. Following Wang Ling's gaze, grenade-throwing senior immortal asked, Brother dog, why did you suddenly want to play games? It actually wasn't just Wang Ling. Taoist Guang and grenade-throwing senior immortal were also very concerned about this. If this had happened a week or 2 ago, given Loopy Toad's lazy dog life, it wouldn't have been interested in these things at all. Loopy Toad didn't pay much attention to this question, since it indeed didn't usually play games. It was indeed a little strange that it suddenly wanted to play. Loopy Toad had already explained the reason for this before. A large part of the reason was the mental pressure from the inheritance talisman, which was stronger than it had imagined. The most important thing was that Loopy Toad wanted to digest the inheritance talisman in a short period of time, and then solve the problem of the Toad clan. In fact, at first, Loopy Toad had wanted to decompress by watching live streams. In the end, Taoist Guang had turned on a live stream and started playing games. Sometimes, watching other people play games couldn't help itching in one's heart. Thus, this was the second reason why Loopy Toad had chosen to decompress by playing games. Of course, this was only a small part of the reason. After thinking about it, Loopy Toad replied, Well, I've been cultivating a cultivation technique recently, so I'm under a lot of pressure. On paper, there was nothing wrong with Loopy Toad's answer. Wang Ling knew that in addition to studying cultivation techniques and spirit techniques recently, Dog 2 was in fact working very hard to absorb the power of the inheritance talisman. Absorbing the inheritance talisman would inevitably cause mental tension, so Wang Ling couldn't deny that playing games to relieve stress in this situation was a very good way. However, Wang Ling still felt that Dog 2 was probably hiding something important. At that moment, Loopy Toad suddenly said, "Then this time, including my friend, there will be 6 people, right?" Taoist Guang nodded. "That's right. Loopy Toad, then I'll pull my friend in." Taoist Guang, brother dog, go ahead. Loopy Toad was just about to invite Wei Ji when it suddenly thought of a very serious problem, and it hurriedly sent a message in the group. "Wait. There's something very important I haven't said." Taoist Guang and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Loopy Toad, brothers, please don't tell Little Master that I'm playing games. Chapter 487. Loopy Toad pulled Wei Ji into the group. This was Wei Ji's first time being up close with Lord Island, and he was a little excited. "I never thought it would really be Lord Island." Lord Island, please show mercy later." Sure, Taoist Guang replied very politely. Now, Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal were in one team, Loopy Toad and Wei Ji were in another, and Taoist Guang and his number 1 fan, Brother Sleep, were in another. Now that the 6 members for the Water Friends match had been assembled, all Taoist Guang had to do was announce the chat group number in the bullet messages and add people in order of who had applied first until the number reached 100. At this moment, it was a battle of hand speed. "Let me, Lord Island." At that moment, Brother Sleep, who had been silent all this time, spoke. Wang Ling had actually been very curious about this Brother Sleep's identity from the beginning. Because Wang Ling always felt that when this Brother Ju spoke, especially when he was serious, it was very similar to someone in his mind. "Brother Ju. Are you really the author who live streams and plays games every day and is urged to update by the readers?" Wei Ji asked directly. Behind the screen, when Brother Ju saw this question, he couldn't help but twitch his lips. "No," Wei Ji looked a little disappointed. Sigh. "I thought it was." Brother Ju asked with interest, "You also read this man's books?" Wei Ji, "Yeah. I really like his Let Go of That Wet Nurse." Brother Ju, Loopy Toad, Wang Ling, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Brother Wei Ji, that book was written by Wang Situ. Wei Ji, oh. In any case, Wang Situ and this 3 Days and 2 Sleeps are both my favorite authors. To avoid the awkwardness, Wei Ji went online to search for the book. After confirming the title, he posted it in the chat group. He took a screenshot of the book's cover and posted it in the group. "Yes. Look, this is the book. Thriller Paradise." The number 1 fan with the ID Brother Ju nodded. This novel is indeed well written. The main character is moody and has a distinct personality. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was suddenly a little curious. "What's this book about?" Wei Ji, as the name suggests, it tells the story of a young protagonist's growth. Suddenly, one day, the protagonist discovered that the world's spiritual energy had recovered, and then unexpectedly obtained a system. The setting was that whenever the protagonist encountered danger in the future, as long as he cowered, he would be able to convert his cowardice into virtual system currency and use it to purchase various items to make himself stronger. I still remember that the strongest item that the main character bought was a leather sofa. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, if you are interested in this book, you can go and read it later, Brother Ju said. Wei Ji sighed dejectedly in front of the screen. Are you really not Brother Ju? Brother Ju shook his head and laughed. I am not. I am just his fan. Online nicknames are most likely not real. Look at this friend whose ID is immortal too. You guys keep calling him Brother Dog. It can't really be a dog, right? Loopy Toad. Before the screen, other than Brother Jew, everyone was speechless. Alright, I'm posting the group number. Just as Brother Jew said that, a sea of requests to join the group were sent in, and the reasons for joining the group were varied. 111. I love Lord Island the most. If you are the fireworks in the sea and I am the foam in the waves, at one moment, your light illuminates me, MUA. I love Lord Island the most. Can I send Lord Island white stockings? In less than 2 minutes, the upper limit for the number of people in the group had been reached. There were at most 100 people in the group, and Daoist Guang had set up the system to automatically review all the applications for joining the group. In addition, to prevent anti-fans of other live streamers from sneaking in, Daoist Guang had specially adjusted the level limit for members. The system would directly filter out applications for alternate accounts with low levels. The chat group instantly became lively. Loopy Toad turned its head to look at Wei Ji next to it, and suddenly realized that he was still looking at the game keys. The corners of its eyes twitched. Are you sure you can do it? You can't even remember the keys. Wei Ji scratched his head. I haven't played this game in a long time. When I played it before, a lot of the mechanisms didn't appear. It's fine, I'll carry you. So confident. It's just a bunch of water friends. As long as they don't use cheats, I think I can beat them. Loopy Toad smiled, looking very confident. Brother Dog, don't look down on water friends too much. Wei Ji scared, and his fingers flew as he quickly opened a web page. Come, Brother Dog, look at this. Loopy Toad craned its head to take a look, and saw that Wei Ji had opened an introduction to a battle team. What's this? The most awesome battle team in the history of our cultivation world is XX Battle Team. There are 10 members in total, but each of them is proficient in all types of games. It said that they can master a game in 5 minutes, even if it's a puzzle-solving game. They can also create a guide for clearing the game in the shortest time possible. Speaking up to this point, Wei Ji pointed to a young man standing in the middle of the battle team with his arms crossed like a big brother and his eyes squinted as he smiled. This person is the captain of this battle team. He's the legendary Guru Yi who wrote the Guide to Glory. Although XX Battle Team was very famous, people who hadn't been playing games for long actually didn't know much about it. But at the mention of Guru Yi and the Guide to Glory, Loopy Toad instantly had an impression. When Daoist Guang had been in the live stream back then, he had used the highly difficult Z-shake body movement from the Guide to Glory, which Loopy Toad remembered very clearly. Thus, when Wei Ji said this, Loopy Toad looked enlightened. Boss Ye's internet cafe was now called Xing, and the abbreviation of the strongest game team in history just happened to be XX. The most important thing was that both of them had the surname Yi. So, you think Boss Yi is related to this Guru Yi? It's very likely. Wei Ji nodded his head. Back then, XX Battle Team crushed everything in major gaming competitions. Later on, it even developed to the point where clubs paid them to specially research a guide for clearing the game in the shortest time possible. Hearing this, Loopy Toad was a little baffled. But what does this have to do with water friends being strong? Brother Dog, don't you understand? Wei Ji stared at Loopy Toad and couldn't help smiling mysteriously. Do you know how this Guru Yi formed XX Battle Team back then and recruited so many experts? Loopy Toad. Wei Ji, Guru Yi found these people in the bullet messages. Loopy Toad. Chapter 488. After the water friends were assembled for the match, Wang Ling registered his ID, which was as simple and crude as ever, HHXX, short for Study Well. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had already prepared the account. Wang Ling had initially planned to buy one for himself. Actually, this game wasn't too expensive. The standard online retail price was 98 HNY, but compared with Wong Ling's usual spending on games, 98 HNY was already a huge sum for him. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was quite considerate. When he had played this game before, he had felt that playing solo wasn't very interesting, so he had bought 100 accounts in one go, hoping to pull people into the pit by giving them away. In fact, one of these accounts had been specially prepared for Wong Ling. He felt that one day, he would be able to play a game with Brother Ling. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that this was a life achievement, as well as a blessing. In ancient times, people liked to drink when they made friends, especially when they ran into close friends. It was impossible not to drink a few pots. But the new generation of cultivators nowadays didn't like this, and making friends on social networking platforms was always the most convenient way. Since the rise of the PUBG game, there had also been some mockery online about the way modern cultivators made friends. They used to drink 1,000 cups of wine when meeting bosom friends, but now they found a place to lie low. In the villa's basement, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had an office with 5 or 6 computers inside. These were all office computers, and couldn't compare to gaming computers, but they were already considered fighter jets for office computers. They had no problem running the PUBG game. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sat next to Wong Ling with a smile on his face. "Brother Ling, do you know where the keys are?" Wong Ling nodded. He had taken 2 seconds to look at them just now. The door to the office was open, and Little Silver was sitting on the broccoli sofa outside. He didn't move and looked a little nervous. From this angle, he could see Wong Ling's back. "Should we look for Master and ask about the contract?" Little Silver was very conflicted, but he was also a little afraid that if he acted rashly, it would backfire. When people were conflicted, it was inevitable that they would feel nervous, and when they were nervous, everyone behaved differently in order to eliminate this nervousness. And Little Silver's most common behavior was to eat. Little Silver had been studying the different ways to make crispy noodle snacks just now, but when he looked at Wong Ling now, he inexplicably became nervous. In his nervousness, he unknowingly opened the crispy noodle snack bag in his hand and took a bite without even using the seasoning packet. Crack! It was just a very faint sound, but it still caught Wong Ling's attention. Little Silver abruptly realized that Master, who had been staring intently at the computer screen, had suddenly turned his head. Little Silver didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt like Master's eyes were shining. Little Silver instantly broke out in a sweat. Elsewhere, in the Wong family's villa, the door to Father Wong's study was tightly shut. Mother Wong had come over earlier, but when she twisted the doorknob and found that the door was locked, she silently left. Normally, Father Wong's door wouldn't be shut, but whenever it was locked, Mother Wong could only consider one possibility. Father Wong was in arrears again and was writing urgently. Thus, Mother Wong didn't disturb him too much. Furthermore, Lai Meng Meng was also inside, and it was better to have 2 people inside than 1. In the past, when Father Wong had been rushing work, he would lock himself inside, and Mother Wong had been afraid that he would die while he was writing. Nowadays, there were too many reports of writers dying suddenly after staying up all night writing. Even so, there were still some readers who liked to stir up trouble, and would do everything in their power to make the authors in arrears, and would even make them wear women's clothes to pay off their debts. Mother Wong felt that she was still quite young at heart, but she really didn't understand the current trend among young people to wear women's clothes. After all, Father Wong was already getting older. What was so nice about a big, burly man wearing women's clothes? But then again, Mother Wong suddenly realized that if Wong Ling dressed in women's clothes, it would feel pretty good. When Wong Ling was very young, Mother Wong had actually bought him a set of girls' clothes and dressed him up like a little girl. Almost every parent had done this before. Mother Wong remembered that she seemed to have taken a photo at that time. Where did I put the photo of Ling Ling dressed in women's clothes when he was young? At the door of the study, Mother Wong cupped her chin in her hands as she pondered, then walked toward the bedroom on the 3rd floor. Suddenly recalling this matter, Mother Wang immediately decided to find this photo. In the study, Lai Meng heaved a long sigh of relief when he heard Mother Wang's footsteps leave. She left. Father Wang took off his headphones and turned to ask. But brother, you still owe one chapter, isn't that a bad thing to do? It's fine, I've been in good shape recently, and I'll pay off all the chapters 1 in a while. It's rare for us to organize a Water Friends match, so playing games is more important. If you want to play games, then play them openly. Why did you hide it from sister? Lai Meng looked out the door guiltily. Somehow, he felt that this was very immoral behavior. Men always have their little secrets. Although this Lord Island isn't a female live streamer, in any case, I still gave some royalties to his #1 fan. If your sister finds out, she'll definitely nag at me for a long time. There were many times when Father Wang chose not to say anything, but that was to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings. As for the money he had given Lord Island as a reward, that was Father Wang's personal stash of gold, which he handed over most of his monthly royalties. The reward was a small matter, but if the secret stash of gold was exposed, the consequences would be unthinkable, but after thinking it over, Lai Meng still felt that this wasn't right. There are no buts. Brother Lai, you don't understand. Father Wang sighed. You don't have a girlfriend or a family yet. Actually, it's normal that it's hard to understand. If you want your brother and sister to live in peace, just pretend you didn't see this. Your sister and I haven't quarreled. The worst time was when she said she was running away from home, and then she disappeared. Lai Meng, you didn't look for her. Father Wang, look for what? Every time she says she's running away, she hides under the sofa in the basement. She says she's afraid I won't be able to find her. Lai Meng, Father Wang, then, as soon as I found her, we instantly made up. She even kept asking me if I was hungry and if she wanted to cook me a bowl of noodles. Lai Meng, Father Wang hung his headphones around his neck and stared at Lai Meng, his tone pleading. Apart from writing, I usually only watch live streams and play games as little hobbies. So, can you not say anything? Lai Meng sighed. Fine. I won't say anything, but you have to write 20,000 more words today. Father Wang, 4,000, Lai Meng, 20,000. Father Wang gritted his teeth. 8,000. Lai Meng, 20,000. If you don't agree, I'll tell everyone that you're a fan of 3 days and 2 sleeps. Chapter 489. He was the Grand Wang Situ with countless fans. If other people found out that he was actually a fan of 3 days and 2 sleeps, what would happen? So far, Father Wang's writing career had been smooth sailing. As soon as his first work, Let Go of That Wet Nurse, was released, the data started to show all kinds of crushing and fancy results. Even the godly author of the website, Zhu Gu, was so angry that he left and transferred to another website. After all these years, Father Wang felt that if he really had to pick a destined rival in the circle, it was probably only this 3 days and 2 sleeps. From a content perspective alone, Father Wang felt that this person's story was very rich and interesting. It was a pity that it was written too slowly, and because it often stopped updating every 2 or 3 days, it didn't make it onto the list. If he could resume his normal updates, this person would definitely be a strong opponent. Given Father Wang's current status in the circle, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was at the top. He enjoyed all kinds of resources on the website, enjoyed huge subscriptions, and received praise from fans. But there were times when people couldn't be too arrogant. Lai Meng felt that Father Wang's spirit of being prepared for danger in times of peace was pretty good. Back then, Lai Meng had been very surprised to learn that even the famous Wang Situ, Father Wang, was a fan of 3 days and 2 sleeps. Of course, only Lai Meng himself knew about this. It was an absolute secret to Father Wang. It was actually very common for authors in the same industry to compete with each other and flatter each other in business, but there were also quite a few authors like Father Wang who worshipped individualism in private. As Father Wang's exclusive, Lai Mengmeng felt that there was a lot of room for him to make use of this. At the very least, it was a good way to urge readers to update. Father Wang turned on the voice-changing card and planned to change his voice a little when he played the game later to disguise himself a little. Father Wang had Grenade Throwing Senior Immortal's chat account, so he immediately knew Grenade Throwing Senior Immortal's real identity. When he saw Grenade Throwing Senior Immortal call that person with the ID, Immortal 2, a brother dog, Father Wang almost immediately guessed that this, Immortal 2, was his family's dog too. Question: what is the experience of playing PUBG with your own spiritual beast? For the time being, Father Wang couldn't answer this question. At the very least, Father Wang would take the game a little more seriously. If his spirit beast were to actually shoot him in the head with a 98K, it would be a huge embarrassment. Daoist Guang's custom mode had already been set up, and everyone entered their rooms one after another as the game was about to begin. Father Wang stared intently at the screen. At that moment, Lai Mengmeng suddenly asked, "What kind of person do you think 3 days and 2 sleeps is? Aside from the occasional hiatus, he should be a good person. Wasn't he a stay-at-home dad? The child is so young, it really isn't easy for him to write." Like most people, Father Wang had seen this author play live streams when he wasn't doing his job. "I heard that he has never attended any event before. It would be great if we could meet him at the annual party." Lai Mengmeng fell silent when he heard this. What happened? Father Wang suddenly felt that Lai Mengmeng's expression didn't look too good. "It's fine." Lai Mengmeng smiled. In fact, the website had been guarding a secret regarding the author whose pen name was 3 Days and 2 Sleeps. Only the higher-ups of the website and the ass who had been on the job for more than 10 years knew about this secret. Lai Mengmeng had just been on the job for 10 years last year, and it was the chief who had told him this secret. 3 Days and 2 Sleeps' real identity wasn't a stay-at-home dad. The 3 Days and 2 Sleeps who usually played live streams wasn't 3 Days and 2 Sleeps at all, but the real 3 Days and 2 Sleeps' husband. That was right. That was right. The real 3 Days and 2 Sleeps. It was actually a woman. The game was about to start, but at that moment, a figure with the air of an aristocratic gentleman stopped at the entrance of the villa. Mr. Liu's gaze fell on the villa. The coordinates on the GPS device in his hand completely matched his own, which already proved that this was the villa he was looking for, and that the green-furred dog was inside. According to the mission President Bai had assigned him, he would first kill this green-furred dog, and then meet the expert who looked like a teenager whom the lady of the castle had mentioned. Mr. Liu pushed up his monocle, and light instantly gushed out of it. This was a heat-sensing scanning ray, and through it, he had already figured out the structure of the villa as well as where the people were located. According to the heat sensor, there were now 3 people in the villa, and all 3 of them were currently in the basement. Where had the dog gone? Mr. Liu felt that something wasn't right. Could it be that the dog wasn't just at level 2? Mr. Liu furrowed his brows as he thought of a situation. This situation could also explain why Elder Han and Elder Kanglan, who had been sent to hunt down the green-furred dog, could not take it down even after joining forces. There was only one truth, that green-furred dog's true realm had already reached level 1, and had even transformed completely. But judging from the heat sensor alone, Mr. Liu couldn't be sure which one was the green-furred dog in human form. How about he kill all 3 of them together? Mr. Liu looked at the time. But if he did that, he wouldn't have enough time, because he was about to get off work. When all was said and done, the reason why Mr. Liu worked for President Bai was because of his high hourly salary. Initially, Mr. Liu had calculated that if it was just dealing with one green-furred dog, he would be able to make it in time. But plans couldn't keep up with changes. If he had to kill 3 people at once, it would definitely take more time. So, standing at the door, Mr. Liu sent President Bai a text message explaining the situation. President Bai replied almost instantly, "Then kill them all, it's your overtime pay." "Very well, President." After receiving further instructions, Mr. Liu closed his phone. As long as he was paid enough overtime, it didn't matter if he had to work like an ox or a horse, should he break down the door. Mr. Liu gathered his strength in his fists, but very quickly gave up. He felt that this would also be ungentlemanly. A villain also needed to have quality, better to ring the doorbell. As soon as the door opened, he would rush in and kill all three of them. Almost the instant Mr. Liu was about to ring the doorbell, Wang Ling's attention was caught by that subtle murderous aura which he had gathered his strength to break down the door earlier. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took off his headset. "Brother Ling, what's wrong?" Murderous aura. Wang Ling turned his head and looked at the top right corner, which faced the villa's main entrance. "It's Demon Chi." Little Silver also stood up. As a holy beast, he was naturally more sensitive to demon chi than human cultivators. Wang Ling looked at the game interface. The game had already entered the preparation stage, and there was no way they could stop. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal looked at Little Silver. "Brother Silver, Brother Ling and I are busy right now, it's time for you to show off." "But this demon chi is very strong. It's at least an itinerant immortal. Without master, I'm afraid I can't do it." Little Silver bit his lip, he actually wanted to fight alongside Wang Ling. Chapter 490. What did it feel like to eat crispy noodle snacks? Little Silver didn't know, because he had been too nervous just now. He had eaten the crispy noodle snack packet in his hand, and had even forgotten to sprinkle the seasoning packets. Who the hell knew what it felt like? But after eating this crispy noodle snack packet, Little Silver could indeed feel a blazing power surge through his body, as if there was a big fireball burning in his dantian. Abundant spirit power. It couldn't be. Little Silver was stupefied. Generally speaking, this was a phenomenon that would only happen at the juncture of a breakthrough. 1,000 years ago, when he had advanced from a 7th-class holy beast to a 6th-class holy beast, he had experienced this feeling. Perhaps it was different from what a normal human cultivator felt when breaking through a realm, but this phenomenon of abundant spirit power was indeed unique to holy beasts when they were about to break through. What the hell? After eating a crispy noodle snack packet, he had super-evolved. Little Silver clenched his fists and was stupefied when he felt a strange power surge through his body. It turned out that Loopy Toad really hadn't lied to him. Eating crispy noodle snacks really could help you cultivate. Little Silver felt this was quite inconceivable. He suddenly remembered what Loopy Toad had said before. This batch of crispy noodle snacks had been personally enchanted by Master. Furthermore, each one was a rare collectible, and the packaging and seasoning packets were different. They were clearly much more valuable than the cheap crispy noodle snacks sold outside. At that moment, Little Silver suddenly recalled how Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had begged him for a crispy noodle snack packet, and had even been willing to sell his body to brush his fur. It seemed that the crispy noodle snacks that Master had given him were really something. Thinking about how Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had only done a little physical labor in exchange for a crispy noodle snack packet, Little Silver instantly felt like he had suffered a huge loss. He now had 18 packets left, which he would have to make good use of later. At that moment, as he felt the spirit power surging through his body, Little Silver suddenly regretted eating crispy noodle snacks earlier. He had been stuck at 6th class for many years, and this crispy noodle snack packet was actually able to directly fill his spirit power to the point where he was on the verge of a breakthrough. Even Little Silver himself hadn't expected this. However, when the spiritual energy in the body reached saturation, which was the state of abundant spiritual energy that holy beasts possessed, it would take at least 3 to 5 days of seclusion to fully digest the spiritual energy. And most importantly, he had to avoid fighting as much as possible in these 3 to 5 days, because as long as he fought, he would definitely consume his psionic energy, and this state of psionic abundance would disappear. But obviously, it was too late to say anything now. Although he felt like he had lost the opportunity to advance, he still had the other 18 packets of crispy noodle snacks, so there was still a chance. Little Silver comforted himself in his heart, and a bit of spirit power gathered on the soles of his feet. At that moment, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, who had already entered the game, suddenly thought of something. With a grim expression on his face, he turned his head and shouted, "Brother Silver! Little Silver! Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, remember to use the stairs, Little Silver." At the entrance of the villa, Mr. Liu rang the doorbell again. Through the thermal sensor on his monocle, he could already see what was going on inside. Someone was walking toward him. When he saw the figure approaching the door, he reached out and gripped the cane in his hand. This wasn't an ordinary cane, but a special cane-type spirit sword. It looked no different from a cane, but in fact, there was something mysterious about it. Mr. Liu had won this cane at the annual auction of Jingxi International Shopping Center, and had crossed the ocean to deliver it to him a few months ago. This was a second-class holy weapon that cost 10 million immortal gold bars, the Skywalker sword. It was ranked 7th on the overall spirit sword ranking list. Of course, President Bai had paid for this sword on his behalf, and it could be considered the first gift President Bai had given him since hiring him as his personal assistant. A few months ago, Mr. Liu had wanted to quit his job and return to his clan to take a look after his contract expired. After all, he was a demon, and staying in the human world for a long time wasn't a long-term solution. But because of this sword, Mr. Liu had renewed his labor contract with President Bai for another 50 years. Mr. Liu was a kind and virtuous person, which could be seen from the way he rang the doorbell. After all these years at President Bai's side, he still had feelings for him as an old employee. Thus, half of the 50 years he had renewed the contract was for the sake of the sword, and the other half was out of friendship. Mr. Liu gripped the cane. Very soon, he would use this Skywalker sword, which he had bought for the high price of 10 million immortal gold bars, to break in the moment the person inside opened the door, and then chop off the other party's head. The door opened a crack. Narrowing his eyes, Mr. Liu nimbly jumped over the iron gate on the outskirts of the villa, and brandished the Skywalker sword as he attacked Little Silver. An itinerant immortal stretched out his hand extremely quickly. In the eyes of a normal person, it was as if his entire figure had turned into a streak of startling light. Little Silver had only just opened a crack when he already saw a dazzling sword light up in front of him. No wonder the demon Qi is so strong, he really is an itinerant immortal. Little Silver closed his eyes slightly and crossed his arms. He was already prepared. The moment he opened his eyes, the space around him changed, startling Mr. Liu so much that he stopped his attack midway. Mr. Liu spun around in mid-air and took a few steps back. He then realized that the scene before him had actually shifted to a barren desert. An intrinsic spirit field. Mr. Liu turned pale with fright. He never thought that the silver-haired young man in front of him would actually be so powerful. This was an ability that only a true immortal could possess at the very least. However, Little Silver's current strength hadn't reached the level of a true immortal. The reason why he could use an intrinsic spirit field was actually similar to Fang Xing's. Fang Xing's intrinsic spirit field had been passed down from his father, Immortal Shi Pai, while Little Silver's intrinsic spirit field had been passed down from his ancestors. However, Little Silver was much more proficient in using the intrinsic spirit field than Fang Xing. After thousands of years of practice, Little Silver could almost instantly release the intrinsic spirit field. Are you that green-furred dog's owner or friend? Or a humanoid green-furred dog? Mr. Liu asked as he pointed the Skywalker sword at Little Silver. Was this person looking for Loopy Toad? Little Silver reacted very quickly when he heard this question. He remembered that Loopy Toad had mentioned before that after the Demon Hunters Association's matter had been exposed, someone had been hunting it down. But the other party must have made a mistake, and had always thought that Little Silver was Loopy Toad in human form. So whenever someone came looking for trouble, they would find him. Little Silver instantly felt a little hopeless. No matter how much a green-furred dog transformed, it was impossible for it to transform into a silver-haired handsome young man like him. Chapter 491. But right now, no matter what misunderstanding there was, trouble had come looking for him, and solving the problem in front of him was his first priority. Furthermore, Master was also in the room now, so he had to put on a good show. He absolutely couldn't let this person disturb Master while he was playing the game. Little Silver took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. Thinking about it carefully, this was probably his first real battle since Master had brought him to human society after the battle at Immortal Mansion. Little Silver couldn't even remember the names of the senior and junior brothers who had been sent by the Demon Hunters Association previously, because they were so weak that he hadn't paid any attention to them at all. He felt that this old gentleman in a suit in front of him, who looked like an aristocrat, had decent combat strength. But because they hadn't really started fighting yet, Little Silver couldn't estimate the other party's overall combat strength. Thus, Little Silver wouldn't easily release his beast mode unless it was absolutely necessary. In beast mode, his combat strength would be 50% higher than when he was in human form. Even so, Little Silver still remembered that moment at Immortal Mansion when Master had slapped him so hard that even his own mother wouldn't have been able to recognize him. At this thought, Little Silver couldn't help trembling. After calming his thoughts, he looked at Mr. Lu in front of him. "You're from the Demon Hunters Association, right?" Although he had already guessed this person's identity, Little Silver still asked symbolically in order to confirm it. The answer shouldn't be too different from what he had guessed. Because he was engaged in illegal spirit beast trading all year round, this Mr. Lu had the bloody scent of a spirit beast on him. Ordinary cultivators couldn't smell this scent, but as a holy beast, which was one level higher than a spirit beast, Little Silver was very sensitive. Combined with this thick scent of blood and the thick demon chi on this person's body, it really made Little Silver feel a little nauseous. He didn't know what kind of demon beast this person was. "Since you know I'm from the Demon Hunters Association, then you must be the incarnation of that green-furred dog." Mr. Lu raised his Skywalker sword and pointed it at Little Silver. "My surname is Lu, and I'm here on the orders of the President of the Demon Hunters Association to take Your Excellency's life." Mr. Lu stared at the silver-haired young man in front of him and frowned slightly. He vaguely felt that there was something wrong with this matter, but he could not put his finger on it. Think about it, a green-furred dog whose grade was miscalculated, even if it had reached rank 1 and could transform into a human form. Wasn't it a little too abnormal to be able to instantly release an intrinsic spirit field? However, now that things had come to this, and the war was imminent, there was no harm in saying more. He could only wait until he dealt with the young man in front of him. If it was really that green-furred dog, the moment it ran out of spiritual power, it would immediately return to its original form. Even in this intrinsic spirit field where spiritual power was restricted, Mr. Lu had absolute confidence. Tree spirits had very little need for spiritual energy. As long as there was light, there would be nutrition. Although Mr. Lu didn't have an intrinsic spirit field, he was very confident in his endurance. Combined with the art of creation and rebirth that he was so proud of. In theory, as long as there was light, any light would do. 1 second of charging, 1 hour of life extension. "Little brother, I'm sorry to tell you that the spirit energy restriction of the intrinsic spirit field has no effect on this old man at all." Speaking up to this point, Mr. Lu chuckled. When it came time for the real fight, he didn't give off the slightest bit of murderous intent, and maintained a mysterious smile from beginning to end. Then, Little Silver suddenly felt something bind his feet, as if something had wrapped itself around his ankle and was pulling him down to the ground. He'd fallen into a trap. Seeing this scene, Mr. Lu sneered. He hadn't expected this silver-haired young man's intrinsic spirit field to actually be a desert, and it just so happened that Mr. Lu had plenty of tricks up his sleeve in a desert. For example, right now, Mr. Lu could unwittingly grow a few vines from his heels and silently move forward under the sand, then grab the other party and control him. This move was called Furisha, damn. Godly King Clan, Little Silver was stupefied. He never thought that he would actually be facing a tree spirit from one of the 3 big Godly King clans. What was a Godly King clan? Even if they weren't holy beasts, they were still very long-lived races. Currently, in the Spirit Beast Circle and the Demon Beast Circle, the 3 big Godly King clans were publicly acknowledged. One was the Toad Clan, one was the Turtle Clan, and the last was the Tree Clan. These 3 clans had one thing in common, and that was that they were extremely tough, had a high defense, and had a lot of blood. It was very difficult to kill them with normal means. In fact, this had already been proven when Loopy Toad was still a sky-swallowing toad. But the fact that Loopy Toad had been able to survive and forcibly merge with Teacher Pan to become a spirit dog at that time was partly due to luck and fate. The reason why Little Silver was stupefied was that this old man in front of him was a humanoid tree demon, which had the strongest self-healing ability among the 3 big Godly King clans. Furthermore, he had a lot of control skills, and it was generally very difficult to get rid of him. But on the other hand, because Little Silver realized that just by raising his foot slightly, the vines on it had actually all snapped. They were as soft as noodles. What was going on? Little Silver was stupefied. It wasn't just Little Silver. On the other side, Mr. Lu couldn't help frowning when he saw this scene. Frisia. Gritting his teeth, he controlled the next wave of vines to wrap around Little Silver. Little Silver lifted his foot again and snapped the vines. The corners of Mr. Lu's mouth twitched as he continued to grit his teeth. Golden Frisia. Little Silver lifted his foot, it snapped again, Diamond Frisia. Then, Little Silver continued to lift his foot, the vines continued to snap. After 4 rounds, Mr. Lu was already on his knees, panting as he cursed inwardly, what the F***K, lifting his foot was even easier than sweeping up orange peels. Using control skills consecutively drained Mr. Lu to a certain extent. However, he quickly replenished his depleted spiritual power to a certain extent through the power of light. This person isn't easy to deal with. This was Mr. Lu's conclusion after 4 rounds. On the other side, after these 4 rounds, Little Silver had also figured something out. When he had eaten the crispy noodle snacks earlier, he had felt a special force entrenched in his body. When he had been controlled just now, this special force had split into a stream of air which had disintegrated the vines. With the support of this special force, he was now 100% immune to control. Chapter 492. In fact, 100% immunity to control was just one of the effects of eating the crispy noodle snacks. This special force entrenched in Little Silver's body was none other than Wang Ling's own primordial qi. In the face of Wang Ling's primordial qi, all negative conditions would instantly collapse. It wasn't just these simple and crude control skills, even poison attacks were ineffective against Little Silver now. Furthermore, Wang Ling's primordial qi wasn't just limited to defense, it could even strengthen ordinary attacks. With the support of this primordial qi, the power of his spirit techniques and spells would multiply. Wang Ling's primordial qi was a special substance that had automatically formed in his body at a very young age. The truth was that the Dao Talisman seal on Wang Ling contained a Wang Ling substance, which in fact suppressed the primordial qi that Wang Ling's body produced on its own in a steady stream. The reason why Wang Ling's slap had hurt so much when he had slapped Evil Sword God earlier was actually because of the primordial qi. However, because of the Dao Talisman seal, the primordial qi in his body was now at a normal level. If he didn't control it, once the concentration of primordial qi exceeded the norm, the primordial qi wouldn't be able to withstand it. In the battle with Evil Sword God, Wang Ling's slap, Evil Sword God might have been destroyed on the spot, and it was clear that Little Silver was also aware of this. He didn't know that this force was Wang Ling's primordial qi, but he could genuinely feel that all his attributes seemed to have been strengthened. Little Silver now finally understood that the abundance of spirit energy was just a small halo that came with eating the enchanted crispy noodle snacks. This special force entrenched in his body was the real key. But although all his attributes had been strengthened, Little Silver's aura hadn't changed. And this was the most miraculous thing about primordial qi. It was like an invisible cheat. Mr. Lu furrowed his brows at the consecutive failures of his control. He was already proficient in these binding spells, and they were most suitable for use in this kind of terrain. In the past 1,000 years, whenever he made a move, he had never failed to control them. If it was an ordinary demon beast, especially in an extremely tense battle atmosphere, it was very likely that it would be thrown into disarray if something unexpected happened. However, Mr. Lu was indeed Mr. Lu. As members of the Tree Clan, regardless of whether it was a spirit tree or a demon tree, the Tree Clan had a rather big characteristic, which was that they were steady. He was diligent in thinking and would not panic. Although Mr. Lu realized that the silver-haired young man before him would not be easy to deal with, he was still extremely confident. Formless Sword Qi. He injected his magic power into the spirit sword in his hand. Little Silver immediately saw multicolored sword qi surge out from the tip of the sword and gradually cover the entire blade. Then, the sword disappeared as if it had evaporated from his line of sight. Each sword had its own special attribute. For example, Evil Sword God's Heaven-Cleaving Sword represented the destructive power of primal chaos. The Brilliant Victory and Grenade-Throwing Senior Immortal's hand represented the ultimate defense and parrying power. The Skywalker and Mr. Lu's hand represented the ultimate nothingness. When Formless Sword Qi was activated, this sword would directly dissolve in the air and launch a sneak attack when necessary. It had the flavor of the highest realm of Sword Dao, the Traceless Mind Sword. However, the true Heart Sword was much more powerful than the Skywalker Sword. It was practically a destructive force that could destroy anything. In the end, the Skywalker Sword's Formless Sword Qi only had the form, but not the spirit. Even so, the Skywalker Sword was ranked very high on the list of swords. Almost all the top 10 spirit swords on the overall list were first-class holy weapons, and the Skywalker Sword was the only second-class sword. Little Silver had been too bored at home these days, so he had done some research online on the weapons used by human cultivators. He hadn't expected the spirit sword in this Mr. Lu's hand to actually be a famous one. To be honest, if Mr. Lu hadn't used Formless Sword Qi, Little Silver really wouldn't have been able to tell that this was the Skywalker Sword. Somehow, Little Silver felt that there was something wrong with this sword, because it didn't look quite the same as the real thing he had seen on the list of swords. When had the Skywalker Sword become a staff sword? Little Silver felt it was a little strange, but it wasn't his place to ask. After all, nowadays there were plenty of bored human cultivators who liked to repackage famous swords they had bought at a high price to their liking. Little Silver didn't think it was strange if the sword's appearance had been remodeled. After looking at each other for a while inside the intrinsic spirit field, the two of them had already made up their minds. Mr. Lu decided to adopt a protracted battle of attrition. He would use his superb recovery ability and toughness to fight Little Silver to the end with the Skywalker Sword. Of course, Little Silver wasn't a fool. The Tree Clan's recovery ability was famous. Little Silver's plan was to end the battle quickly, and he had to deal a heavy blow that couldn't be recovered from. After looking at each other for a few seconds, an ice-cold glazed sword light condensed in the air and almost stabbed at Little Silver's cheek. Little Silver hurriedly leaned to the side and avoided the blow. The Skywalker Sword Qi suddenly appeared out of thin air and took away a few strands of Little Silver's silver hair. This was a very tricky angle. Little Silver felt that if it wasn't for the primordial qi which enhanced his 6 senses, he really would have suffered a heavy blow. But having said that, Little Silver actually felt that Mr. Lu's attack was a little strange. Logically speaking, the other party was determined to pick a fight, and wouldn't show any mercy. But judging from the power of the sword chi emitted by the Skywalker's sword just now, even though it was indeed very fast and unexpected, Little Silver somehow felt that the sword chi itself wasn't as powerful as he had imagined. "My friend, there seems to be something wrong with your sword." Little Silver voiced his doubts. But Little Silver didn't get a reply from Mr. Lu despite his good intentions. Instead, Mr. Lu launched another attack. "I bought this Skywalker sword from Jingxi Mall for 10 million immortal gold bars. There's absolutely no problem with it." "Why won't you believe me?" Little Silver sighed. He didn't defend himself at all. He raised his fists, his feet shook, and his entire body shot toward Mr. Lu like a cannon. Mr. Lu hadn't expected the other party's attack to be so simple and crude. He hurriedly summoned the Skywalker sword from the air to block it. He recited a spell, and Little Silver quickly sensed a sword light coming at him from the front. But this time, Little Silver chose to directly ignore it, and used his fists to collide with the Skywalker sword light. Throwing an egg at a rock. Seeing this scene, Mr. Lu couldn't help sneering. However, the outcome was beyond Mr. Lu's expectations. Sword and fist collided, emitting a crisp sound of collision. Chapter 493. Mr. Lu never thought that his Skywalker sword would actually crumble so thoroughly. That was a grade 2 Saint-tier artifact. Why had a second-class holy weapon turned into a pile of dregs when it collided with a fist? Watching this scene, Mr. Lu was petrified the moment the Skywalker sword shattered. When he came back to his senses, Little Silver's fist was already pressed against his face. Then, Mr. Lu's face came into close contact with Little Silver's fist, and he was sent flying by the punch. His face was deeply sunken in. It was as if this punch had hit a thick tree trunk, and it left a deep dent in Mr. Lu's face. So weak, Little Silver stared at Mr. Lu, who had been sent flying by his punch, and his face broke out in sweat as he almost subconsciously blurted this out. The Tree Clan wasn't very lethal to begin with. It was just their toughness and powerful recovery abilities. Even the spells they cast were mostly control spells. Spirit beasts and demon beasts had their own positions, and so did holy beasts. Little Silver represented the Silver Unicorn clan, and among the holy beasts, he was a tanky berserker. Not only could he fight, he was also an absolute strength-type warrior. If a holy war broke out between holy beasts, silver unicorns would be at the forefront. Unfortunately, the holy war back then didn't break out in the end. The procedure for launching a holy war was very complicated. A holy beast assembly was held, and the leaders of each clan would participate in the voting, and the final result would be decided. Little Silver remembered that when the first holy beast assembly was held, all the representatives of the holy beasts had come together. As a junior, Little Silver had been given the right to sit in at the back. At the first holy beast assembly, the holy beast representatives of each clan had had a heated discussion about human cultivators who had recently listened to rumors and captured holy beasts. Thus, some holy beast representatives had suggested launching a holy war. Unfortunately, because the impact of the incident had been relatively small, the holy beasts of the other clans hadn't realized the seriousness of the problem. Thus, the proposal for the first holy beast holy war fell through just like that. After that, it was the second assembly. As the representative of the dog clan's holy beasts, Dog Saint once again proposed a holy beast holy war, asking the holy beasts to unite against the human cultivators who cruelly preyed on holy beasts. Unfortunately, this proposal was not passed. Little Silver sat in the back of the auditorium for every Holy Beast General Assembly, so he clearly remembered what had happened. Little Silver clearly remembered that by the time of the third Holy Beast General Assembly, the number of Holy Beast representatives from each clan had already dropped by half compared with the first one. Those who didn't show up were said to have been eaten, and Dog Saint was impressively on the list of people to be eaten. Little Silver remembered that his face had already been indifferent as he sat in the spectator seats. He remembered that he hadn't spoken for a very long time. After all, he was a witness to Dog Saint being stewed in hot pot. At this year's Sacred Beast Conference, only half of the Sacred Beast representatives were left, and they finally realized the seriousness of the problem. However, in view of the humans' ferocious and violent arrogance, the representatives of the Holy Beasts felt that it was not appropriate to start a Holy Beast Holy War at the moment. This was because if they were to fight to the death, the Holy Beasts might be completely wiped out in the end. At that time, the representatives' opinion was to send Holy Beast ambassadors to negotiate with the human cultivators to clarify the rumor that eating Holy Beasts could increase one's realm, and to sign a non-aggression treaty with the human cultivators. And then, Little Silver remembered, that year, the Sacred Beast ambassador who had been sent out never returned. And then, because there were no Holy Beast representatives at the 4th Holy Beast Conference. Later, this conference was never held again. In the moment of the battle, Little Silver had analyzed the attributes of his Silver Unicorn clan and thought of the Holy Beast Conference. He felt a sense of loss and sorrow in his heart. Thus, as the only remaining member of the Silver Unicorn clan who were tanky berserkers, Little Silver had an overwhelming advantage. In terms of combat strength, it could be said that Little Silver already had an overwhelming advantage from the very beginning. But even so, Little Silver felt that it was still a little too exaggerated for him to shatter a second-class holy weapon with one punch. Furthermore, he hadn't even used his full strength. Mr. Liu had been absent-minded when he saw his Skywalker sword being broken just now, and thus suffered a direct punch from Little Silver. Now, he was lying on the ground in the distance, his face burning with pain. Creation. Method of rebirth. Mr. Liu roared in his heart, and a green light gushed out of the wound on his face. However, this light only repaired the sunken shape of his face. The injury on his face actually didn't heal at all, and even the hematoma didn't go down. How is this possible? Mr. Liu's face was full of shock. His creation method of rebirth had actually failed. Not far away, Little Silver brushed the sawdust off his fist and walked over to Mr. Liu. Crouching down, he looked at Mr. Liu's bruised and swollen face and couldn't help sighing. It's no use. I smeared a layer of my saliva on my fist earlier, and it's especially effective against healing spells. Mr. Liu. What kind of operation was this? Actually, Little Silver had said it was saliva because he was worried about Mr. Liu's feelings, but it actually wasn't saliva at all. It was Little Silver's phlegm. Apart from dissolving corpses, Little Silver's phlegm in fact had many other, wondrous uses. Even so, you can't destroy my Skywalker sword with one punch. Mr. Liu's heart ached like a pitiful old man, and the rims of his eyes reddened in a flash. The Traiants were creatures with tough bodies to begin with, but their hearts were weak. Little Silver stared at the old man in front of him who looked like he was about to cry, and for a moment, couldn't bring himself to attack him. Because this Mr. Liu was indeed pitiful enough, Little Silver crooked his finger and caught the fragments of the Skywalker sword in the distance, weighing them in his hand. Sure enough, just as he had expected, there was something fishy about the Skywalker sword. If it had been a genuine second-class holy weapon, even if it had been reduced to fragments, the quality of the fragments wouldn't have been so low. Therefore, this Skywalker sword was a genuine counterfeit. You've been tricked. This isn't the Skywalker sword at all. Little Silver pursed his lips and didn't know what to say. He could already hear Mr. Liu sobbing. Impossible. This is impossible. Our president spent 10 million immortal gold bars to buy it for me. It's impossible for Jingxi International Shopping to have a fake. Unconvinced, Mr. Liu took out his phone from his pocket and even showed Little Silver a screenshot of the electronic order. Looking at the picture, it was indeed the same as the one in Little Silver's memory. Staring at the picture, Little Silver cupped his chin in his hand and thought it was very strange. But why is yours a cane sword? The seller said that he had remodeled the Skywalker sword. After that, Mr. Liu provided a second screenshot. This time, the real object in the screenshot was the cane sword in Mr. Liu's hand. Then, in front of Mr. Liu, Little Silver used the real object search function to browse the electronic shopping mall, and sure enough, he found a lot of spirit swords that looked exactly the same as this cane sword. Furthermore, the name of the cane sword wasn't that different from the Skywalker sword. In the last 200 years, have you studied Huaxiao Nation's Chinese characters? No. I only signed up for accelerated classes, no wonder. When Little Silver heard this, he couldn't help sighing. Human culture is extensive and profound. Just Huaxiao Nation's culture alone is a lot to learn. It was useless to sign up for a crash course. It was better to learn the basics of culture. I've only been here for a short while. Mr. Liu was shocked. Exalted Immortal, you're not human too. When the time is right, you will know who I am. The corners of Little Silver's mouth twitched. It sounded weird, but it didn't seem like there was anything wrong with it. He pointed inside the villa and said, "My master is still inside." Master, Mr. Liu's eyes widened. He remembered that this word meant master. He had already witnessed Little Silver's strength. Of the two people inside whom he had yet to meet, one of them was actually this silver-haired young man's master. How strong was that? Mr. Liu already had no desire to fight at all. Little Silver snapped his fingers and undid the intrinsic spirit field. Mr. Liu knelt on the ground and plunged his head into the ground. Exalted Immortal. This time, this old man was deceived too deeply and was instigated by someone. I am willing to be a witness to expose President Bai's repulsive behavior. I don't have the final say in this matter. You'd better talk to my master later. Little Silver curled his lip. I'll spare your life for now. You've been in the human world for 200 years, but you've never carefully studied Huaxiao Nation's culture. This is clearly the result of your lack of culture. Nowadays, if you don't study hard, you won't even know the name of the noodles you're eating. What noodles? Byung noodles. On the other side, the Water Friends match organized by Daoist Guang had officially begun, and it was now time for the parachute jump. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took off his headphones because he sensed that Little Silver's aura had disappeared along with the intruders. He immediately guessed that Little Silver had used the intrinsic spirit field to change the location of the fight. The intruder's murderous intent had been very strong. Although it had only been a flash, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal knew that this person wasn't simple and that his strength wasn't ordinary. He was probably close to itinerant Immortal level, and it was the same oppressive feeling that Qing Yu, the master of Immortal Mansion, had given him back then. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that this person might not be easy to deal with, but at that moment, their auras suddenly reappeared. It was just that the intruder's aura had become extremely weak. Then, Little Silver grabbed the badly battered Mr. Liu like a chick and directly jumped down from the hole he had punched through on the first floor, throwing Mr. Liu behind Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Wang Ling. Little Silver clapped his hands. I'm done. What the hell? So fast. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was indescribably shaken. Little Silver gave him a thumbs up and couldn't help praising him. Master's crispy noodle snacks are really amazing. At that moment, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal noticed that Mr. Liu, who was lying on the ground with a bloody nose and a swollen face, was actually sobbing in a low voice, like a young girl in love who had lost her EQ. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, what's wrong with him? Little Silver sighed. It's another classic case of someone being cheated online and having a mental breakdown. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Mr. Liu knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, who were playing the game. Two supreme gods. I was as blind as a bat. I'm willing to expose President Bai. Wang Ling looked at the game map calmly and focused on the game, completely ignoring everything else as he thought about where on earth would be the best place to jump. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal also put his headphones back on. He knew that when Wang Ling was focused, he wouldn't care about anything else at all. The most important thing now was the game. So there was no point in talking about this Mr. Lu now. Everything would have to wait until after the game was over. Seeing that Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal were ignoring him, Mr. Lu suddenly felt a little nervous. Two supreme gods. Everything I said is true. Please forgive me, Great Immortal. Two supreme gods, I was wrong. I really was wrong. Two supreme gods, At that moment, the blue veins on Wang Ling's forehead twitched. He took out a mouse pad and threw it at Mr. Lu's face. This movement was so fast that it was almost done in one go. Before Mr. Lu could react, he was hit by the mouse pad. This was just a very casual blow from Wang Ling, but Mr. Lu's entire body was sent flying, and he smashed into the wall of the basement along with the mouse pad. It didn't penetrate the wall, but it was already on the verge of collapsing. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal heard the noise behind him. Even if he didn't turn his head, he could already imagine the mess behind him. This time, he would have to fork out another renovation fee. Little Silver sweated. He had forgotten to tell Mr. Lu that it was best not to disturb Master when he was playing the game. Little Silver called out in a very low voice to Mr. Lu, who was embedded in the wall. Mr. Lu. Are you still alive? With a swollen face, Mr. Lu fell to the ground and gave Little Silver a thumbs up. Chapter 495. When the mousepad hit his face, Mr. Lu almost died on the spot. Fortunately, Wang Ling had only thrown it casually and hadn't used his full strength. Mr. Lu had never met Wang Ling before, and had no idea at all how strong this master, whom the silver-haired young man had mentioned, was. But after Wang Ling's toss, Mr. Lu could now be considered to have completely widened his horizons. Obviously, this young man who was playing the game was definitely a big shot. A mouse pad almost sent him straight to the underworld. Who knew what terrible things would happen if this senior really got angry? Little Silver looked at Mr. Lu, who was lying on the ground twitching slightly. Mr. Lu's spell of creation and rebirth was still being restricted by Little Silver's phlegm. It wasn't that he couldn't recover, but that he was recovering at the speed of a turtle, as if he had the serious injury effect. When Mr. Lu raised his head, his face was covered in green tree blood. It was obvious that the mousepad Wang Ling had thrown earlier hadn't been light on him. The swelling on his face was even more swollen than before, and it looked like he had sustained very serious internal injuries. If it hadn't been for Little Silver's phlegm, it would have been very easy for Mr. Lu to recover from his injury. Little Silver did some calculations. It would take at least 20 minutes for the restrictive effect of his phlegm to wear off. Little Silver started to worry about Mr. Lu's injury. I say, is it really okay? Sprawled on the ground, Mr. Lu made an okay gesture and said with great difficulty, My ribs are broken, but I can still hold on. This level of injury was already Mr. Lu's limit. If he suffered another beating from Wang Ling before he fully recovered, Mr. Lu was sure that he would immediately die. Little Silver comforted him in a low voice. You're actually quite tenacious to be able to survive Master's attack. It's better if you don't move in your current state. Wait until my phlegm, oh no, saliva wears off. Your creation rebirth spell will be able to take effect. Mr. Lu sprawled on the ground, looking as if he had nothing left to live for. Whether it was phlegm or saliva, it was no longer important. Little Silver crouched next to Mr. Lu and couldn't help asking, You said earlier that you came to kill that green-furred dog? Mr. Lu nodded. Yes. I have a total of 2 tasks today. Killing the green-furred dog is only the first task. But it seems like there was a mistake. There's no mistake. Little Silver pointed at Wang Ling with a speechless expression. My master is also the owner of that green-furred dog. Mr. Lu, Little Silver had only asked a few casual questions, but he realized that he seemed to have asked a few interesting things. You just said that you have a second mission. At this point, Mr. Liu had already decided to switch sides in his heart and didn't plan to hide anything at all. He had to send President Bai, that swindler, to prison. The first task was given by President Bai. The second task was assigned to the intelligence organization that President Bai is working with, which is called Mo Immortal Castle. Mo Immortal Castle. Little Silver was startled by this name, because he remembered vaguely hearing Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal mention this organization before. What do they want you to do? They said that there was an expert who looked like a teenager who had been fighting against them. Thus, I discussed it with President Bai and wanted to send me to test out this expert's skills. Mr. Liu answered in full detail. According to the information provided by Mo Immortal Castle, this expert lives in a villa on East Wang Road. The mansion on East Wang Road. Little Silver was startled again. East Wang Road was very long. If it had just been East Wang Road, Little Silver might not have thought of it, but when it came to the villa on East Wang Road, he reacted almost instantly. A villa in such a remote place. Which other villa could it be? Speaking up to this point, Mr. Liu lay prone on the ground and laughed mockingly. It's hard for me to even walk in my current state, so it's definitely impossible for me to cause trouble for that expert who looks like a teenager. The corners of Little Silver's mouth twitched, and he couldn't help dropping his forehead into his hand as he looked at Mr. Liu. Actually, I know that expert who looks like a teenager. You know him? Who? Mr. Liu asked in disbelief. Little Silver pointed at Wang Ling again. The one who hit you with the mouse pad just now. Mr. Liu already couldn't help cursing in his heart. At that moment, the Water Friends match organized by Daoist Guang had officially begun. A lot of people had gathered in the live stream room. Because of this custom Water Friends match, Daoist Guang's popularity had directly skyrocketed once again, and the number of people in the live stream room had already reached 5 million. This was a number that Daoist Guang had only reached after a few hours of live streaming 2 days ago. Some people even predicted in the bullet messages that Daoist Guang's live stream audience might directly break 10 million today. What kind of concept was 10 million? If Daoist Guang really reached this number, it was very likely that he would directly make history. He would become the fastest live streamer in the history of the Cultivation live stream platform to break 10 million online viewers. Daoist Guang is a little amazing. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal clicked his tongue in his heart when he looked at the number of live stream viewers. He remembered that when he had first set up the Cultivation forum, it had taken him several years to stabilize the number of daily active users at 10 million. It had taken Daoist Guang more than a week to break 5 million. After today, it might really break 10 million. Furthermore, given the current growth rate and user activity on the Cultivation live stream platform, it was possible that Daoist Guang's live stream audience would break 100 million in the future. Previously, Daoist Guang had been saying that he wanted to research how to make figurines, and then turn his audience into his believers. Then, he would put his figurines in their homes and burn incense whenever he was free. The bullet messages in the live stream room were exceptionally lively. Daoist Guang had already landed and was strolling around with a rifle in his hand, looking for a katana. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal could hear Daoist Guang's voice. Everyone, please rest assured. If I find a katana, I'll immediately throw this lousy gun away. Now, you can place your bets and see how many water friends I can kill today. There was a delay in the live stream, so Daoist Guang actually didn't have to worry about some water friends in the competition peeking at him with ulterior motives. The bets had already been opened, but now wasn't the time for Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal to place his bets. He and Wang Ling were still floating in the air, and Daoist Guang had already picked up his basic equipment. Wang Ling had chosen a very strange angle to land on a military base in the distance, which players were used to calling an airport. They had actually landed a little late. When they landed, Wang Ling had already noticed the kill notification in the top right corner of the public screen. Player TTXS used Uzi to kill player CHITSONGBAI TTXS. The corners of Wang Ling's mouth couldn't help twitching at this ID. Upwards ho. Chapter 496. Wang Ling felt that there probably weren't many people who had the same kind of brain circuit as him, and this TTXS gave him a very familiar feeling. It would be great if he could sense auras, Wang Ling mused in his heart. As Daoist Guang had said, apart from auxiliary spells that could enhance one's six senses, all other spells were useless in this kind of digital game. Aura perception, heavenly eye, and the like were all useless. Many cultivators like to open their heavenly eyes in battle to avoid illusion spells, since they could separate the fake from the real. But if you really encountered a Voldemort lying in the grass in a ghillie suit, the heavenly eye wouldn't be of any use at all. The first reason was because this was real data. Second, because this group of Voldemort really knew how to lie low. Like Daoist Guang, the only thing they could do was use some small spells to strengthen their hearing and vision. Casting spells on oneself, strictly speaking, was not cheating. It was more of an opportunistic, physical cheat, just like how some players like to hold a magnifying glass to a high magnification lens on a computer to achieve the effect of a magnifying glass. But Wang Ling knew that there would definitely be people using cheats in a Water Friends match, and it was very likely that there would be more than one. This was when it came to a competition to see who could buy the most advanced software. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Wang Ling had just landed when the total number of people on the screen had already dropped to 80. It had only been less than 3 minutes since the start of the game. A player with the ID, Snake, had already appeared in the kill list in the public screen, and almost all the players who had been killed had been headshots. Brother Ling, someone's using cheats, what should we do? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal looked at the screen and the corners of his mouth twitched. He didn't need to look at the bullet messages to know that there was definitely already a lot of abuse. F***K. Using cheats in this kind of game. Everyone just wants to play with Lord Island, they have no manners. Lord Island, please check this ID and don't let him enter the Book Friends match next time. I'm guessing that this person is probably a fan of another live streamer who's deliberately causing trouble. Those Water Friends who had been killed by this Snake at the start of the game ran to the live stream room one after another to complain to Lord Island in a bullet message. Wang Ling didn't pay too much attention to it. When they landed, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal followed Wang Ling into a building to pick up things. After just searching one floor, the two of them found bulletproof vests, helmets, rifles and scopes. When they reached the second floor, they opened a room and found a first aid kit, painkillers and energy drinks. After spending 2 minutes ransacking a building, Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal were fully equipped with level 3 sets of equipment, a sniper rifle and rifle in each hand, frying pans on their backs, and ample ammunition and medicine in their backpacks. Why was his luck so good today? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was stunned. In the past, when he was alone, he would have to ransack a few houses before he could find what he wanted. The worst part was that he would often fail to find his backpack. Even if there was something, he couldn't pick it up. In fact, this was because the effects of the Great Fortune spell he had used earlier were still there. Of course, the effect of the Great Fortune spell would disappear at midnight today. Hence, Wang Ling felt that games were really boring. When it came to PUBG, most players focused their fun on finding supplies and accessories, and then destroying other players. But for Wang Ling, as long as the Great Fortune spell was active, the fun of finding supplies was gone. From the start of the game until now, the only fun Wang Ling had experienced was parachuting. This thing was just a parachuting simulator. At that moment, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal looked at the number of people left. Almost 6 minutes had passed in the game, but there were only 60 people left. The player with the ID, Snake, was still using his cheat to slaughter the other Water Friends in a frenzy. Water friends complained incessantly, and that mysterious snake whose whereabouts were unknown boldly posted a high-level bullet message in the live stream room. I'm on the top of the Iron Tower at the airport. Show your head if you dare. If you dare show your head, I'll kill you. Apart from the #1 fan in the live stream room, the other water friends had to pay 50 HNY to post high-level bullet messages. The bullet messages in the live stream room completely exploded. Damn. Too arrogant. Are all people who use cheats nowadays so awesome? Brother Ling, do you want to punish him? Grenade-throwing senior immortal sighed. The building they were currently in was actually within the range of the airport, but it was at the edge of the airport. However, it actually wasn't far from the Iron Tower that Snake was talking about. The Iron Tower that Snake was talking about was the large crane next to the C building in the central area of the airport map, which players commonly called Youtiao. The terrain here was very high, and it was the easiest place to kill someone. Grenade-throwing senior immortal wanted to punish this player who used cheats, and Wang Ling actually didn't have much of an opinion. Grenade-throwing senior immortal was in the same group as Wang Ling, so he was naturally also covered by the halo of the Great Fortune spell. The balance of luck was on their side. Even if someone used cheats, they might not be able to kill them. But not long after Grenade-throwing senior immortal said this, another message appeared on the public screen. Player TTXS used Guzi to kill player Snake with a headshot. Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing senior immortal didn't expect this. Before they could move, this snake had already been punished by someone else. Furthermore, Wang Ling noticed that the person who had killed Snake was actually TTXS, whom he had noticed earlier. At the same time, in the study of the Wang family's small villa, Father Wang also burst into cheers. Well done, Little Ming. Father Wang had long since guessed that there would most likely be cheats in this kind of Water Friends match, so he had already gotten rid of Little Ming to research anti-cheat sanctioned software. Among the 100 people in this Water Friends match, Wang Ming's alternate account had actually been secretly infiltrated. This was all arranged by Father Wang in advance. Father Wang's voice window was currently connected to Wang Ming. Hee, Uncle Wang, you flatter me, it's nothing. Wang Ming laughed, his voice very magnetic. But I neglected to think about it. The anti-cheat software I spent 3 minutes designing previously left out an anti-tracking mechanism, so there's no way to locate a person who's using a cheat. After I got rid of this cheater, I spent 10 seconds just now to add this mechanism. Father Wang sweated. But for this kind of cheater, it should be able to unlock health, right? Lai Mengmeng asked on the side. Wang Ming shook his head. It's no use. My bullets are invincible, and a pistol bullet can also kill people with a headshot. Lai Mengmeng, Father Wang smiled like a lotus. Ha 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 ha. That's great. These cheaters are the most annoying. Wang Ming, don't worry, uncle, go ahead and play. If there's a cheat, just leave it to me. Father Wang nodded reassuringly. But come to think of it, can those players who died earlier be resurrected? Wang Ming, Uncle Wang, you want to resurrect them? No problem. Lai Mengmeng was stunned. What the hell? That works. Wang Ming's tone was very certain. No problem, it's fine as long as they were killed by cheaters. I'll write a plugin for my anti-cheat sanctioned software now. Father Wang and Lai Mengmeng, Wang Ming, I'll call this plugin, Samsara Heavenly Life. Because there was one question that he found very strange. If this TTXS was Wang Ming's identity. If this TTXS was Wang Ming, then there was no way Daoist Guang had specially invited him over. In fact, Daoist Guang didn't know that Wang Ling had a cousin called Wang Ming at all. The two of them weren't even chat friends, so why would they play games together? Then there was actually only one final answer. It was very likely that someone else had arranged for Wang Ming to join. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal knew that Mother Wang didn't play games, and Loopy Toad had Wei Ji to accompany it today. In the Wang family, apart from Brother Ling, who did Brother Wang Ming listen to the most? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal almost instantly had an answer to this question in his heart. Then, the situation was actually very clear now. There was no doubt that this TTXS was Brother Wang Ming. And Brother Wang Ming had definitely been invited by Brother Ling's father, Senior Wang. As for Senior Wang's suspected ID in the game, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal also had an answer in his heart. Previously, he had heard that #1 fan, Brother Sleep, keep mentioning online novels. If Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's guess was correct, this Brother Sleep's identity was most likely Senior Wang. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal looked at the number of people who had been restored after the Samsara Heavenly Life plugin had taken effect. In the top right corner of the screen, the current number of people was 87. All the water friends who had been killed by the cheat had already been resurrected. At this point, a long time had already passed in the game. At that moment, a system prompt popped up, 30 seconds until the next blue circle shrank. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was alarmed. Not good, Brother Ling. We have to outrun the blue circle. He nudged Wang Ling with his elbow and then opened the map. Then, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was astonished to find that their building was in the very center of the safe zone. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. AI, Wang Ling sighed a little bored to death. Because of the Great Fortune spell, he knew that the building he was in right now was 100% the final heavenly circle. So, no matter how the blue circle shrank in the end, as long as he was here, he was in the very center of the safe zone. For the first time, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that a game could actually be this boring. After the Water Friends match that day, Little Silver asked Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal curiously, Grenade-throwing. How does it feel to play games with Master? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal smiled slightly. Just lie down. Chapter 498. Of course, Wang Ling had also thought of what Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal could think of. It was just that he hadn't dared be sure. Playing the same game as his own spirit beast was already a very magical feeling to Wang Ling. Now that he had a player he suspected was his own father, he was instantly at a loss for words. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Wang Ling were lying on the roof of the military base, bored out of their minds as they enjoyed the breeze. To their left was the Youtiao, and to their right was the sea building, which formed a perfect angle. Furthermore, they were lying on the walls for cover, so the angle was very tricky. Unless someone rushed down the building, even if they were standing on the Youtiao, they might not be able to find them. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's heart almost collapsed. There was no gaming experience at all. The only difference between this and turning into a box as soon as they landed was that their equipment and potions were full. But they weren't of any use at all, so, their current state was 2 human-shaped boxes. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that this analogy was quite apparent. He realized that as long as he was with Wang Ling, there would be no such thing as a heavenly circle, not in this lifetime. When other people played games, whether or not they could encounter a heavenly circle depended on their luck. When Wang Ling played games, whether or not he could encounter a heavenly circle depended entirely on him. Wherever Wang Ling was, the safe zone was there. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had initially thought that playing games with Wang Ling was a very exciting experience. But unfortunately, the first time was worse than he had imagined. In a daze, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took off his headphones and got up. Little Silver, Grenade-throwing, you're not playing anymore. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's face was wooden. I'm going to eat some broccoli salad to calm down, Little Silver, but the game is still going on here. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal smiled slightly. It's fine, with Brother Ling here, I can win even if I play with my feet. Wang Ling and Little Silver, this was indeed a very unpleasant gaming experience. Actually, it was rare for Wang Ling to play a game, so he really wanted to show off his skills. But because of the Great Fortune spell, he definitely couldn't show off his skills today. In fact, the most important thing was that once the Great Fortune spell was activated, it couldn't be cancelled at will, which was the biggest headache. Wang Ling knew that grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's gaming experience was very poor. Not everyone's personality was suited to be a condescending king. At that moment, Wang Ling saw that the system's third blue circle had already been refreshed. He opened the map. Sure enough, they were still in the center of the safe zone. Seeing that it was a voice message from Wang Ming, he hurriedly turned off the mic that was connected to him and Daoist Guang. He was in a team with Lord Island, and they were working together. If he didn't turn off the mic, his private conversation with Wang Ming would be recorded. "Uncle, can I ask you something? Is Ling Ling at home today?" "Ling Ling, he's at home. He's busy revising for the midterm exams," Father Wang replied swiftly. "At home. Okay, got it." Wang Ming grinned, already having an answer in his heart. Father Wang felt that there was something wrong with Wang Ming's laughter, and he couldn't help exhorting him, "Don't take your little brother out to play games. You would have graduated long ago at his age. He's not as smart as you are, and I can't even get him to keep his grades down." Keep his grades down, Wang Ming opened his mouth, but in the end didn't have the courage to refute Father Wang. What he actually wanted to say was that sometimes, the person who kept their grades down was the real big shot. The third blue circle refreshed, and the number of people returned to 60. This number was actually still considered normal, but when Father Wang looked at the kill notifications on the public screen, he noticed that someone with the ID, WF, had killed 3 people in a row with a 98k headshot. "Little Ming, can you check if this WF is using cheats?" Father Wang said. 5 seconds later, Wang Ming's message came through. "No, this person isn't using cheats. He's an expert. His marksmanship is very accurate. So far, he's killed 7 people, and each one was a headshot. So awesome." Father Wang scared. Sure enough, there were still experts in this game. "Do you want me to get rid of this person?" Wang Ming smiled. "Don't. It's fine as long as he's not using cheats. Uncle might be a noob, but I still have integrity." Wang Ming covered his face and laughed. "Uncle, if you have integrity, you should be writing now." Hearing this, Father Wang was unexpectedly speechless. Chapter 499. Wang Ming was hiding in a small 2-story building. This was a very safe location, and the game character, TTXS, which Wang Ming had created, had intelligently chosen this location based on the location of the safe zone's refresh and the movement routes of nearby players. Based on the results of the software's calculations, the game character would prioritize the safest, shortest path with cover and a relatively wide field of view, and walk over on its own. As a professional cheat adjudicator, Wang Ming's current anti-cheat software had been continuously debugged and improved, and the character in the game could operate automatically, as if possessed by a soul. Wang Ming didn't even need to move the mouse or the keyboard, he only needed to use voice input to give instructions. TTXS was now crouching on the balcony on the 2nd floor of this building, and there was already no one coming from behind it. As long as it was the direction TTXS was aimed at, there would definitely be someone passing by. But it hadn't been long since TTXS had occupied this small building, when Wang Ming immediately issued the next command. TTXS, move immediately. Find WF's position. Although Father Wang had already told him not to pay attention to it, Wang Ming was still a little concerned about this player with the ID, WF. Perhaps it was because of his intuition that he had a brother complex. In any case, this WF made Wang Ming feel uncomfortable. As the character, TTXS, moved on its own to track WF's specific position, Wang Ming swiftly cut to the screen, and his fingers flew as he searched the terminal code in an attempt to find information on this WF. He could even directly modify the death data on the game company's terminal, and make those water friends who had already died reincarnate. For Wang Ming, searching for information on a person was a piece of cake. While Wang Ming was working, President Chi watched from the side with a cup of immortal spirit coffee in his hand. TCH, it's just a game, is it worth it? It wasn't easy for my uncle to ask me for help, of course I have to do it, Wang Ming said. I think you're doing this for your little brother, right? President Chi asked. Wang Ming, President Chi chuckled. Let me remind you, Jai-in will be back in 30 minutes. At the mention of Jai-in, Wang Ming couldn't help sweating on his forehead. There's still time, President Chi deliberately made small talk with Wang Ming, but in the end realized that Wang Ming's operation wasn't affected at all. A player's personal information was important data for a game company, and there were many ways to protect it. In theory, it was much more difficult than modifying the death data of water friends on the terminal. This also involved the game company's personal security measures, and what Wang Ming was doing now was to steal information on this player with the ID, WF, without the game company's defense system noticing. Judging from Wang Ming's expression, it was really too easy. In less than a minute, Wang Ming had already given his IP the highest level of authority to hack into the game company's computer. Tisk, so fast. President Chi couldn't help sighing in his heart. In the end, it was still the strongest brain. When he was younger, he had actually been able to do something similar, but in the end, he still couldn't match Wang Ming's current speed. At his peak, President Chi felt that it would take him at least 5 minutes to hack into a player's information without leaving anything to chance. But he still couldn't help asking, "You didn't get caught hacking in so quickly, did you?" Wang Ming shook his head. "No, if I did, I'll cut open my brain for you to see." President Chi, don't say. I've always had this urge. Wang Ming, President Chi, you can change your name. From now on, don't use Wang Shaoer as the pseudonym on your ID card, it's very old-fashioned. Wang Ming, what do you mean, President? President Chi, you can change it to Wang Zilong. Wang Ming. President Chi couldn't help laughing. You're going in and out of the game company's customer data like it's in Changban, does their security consultant not want face? Wang Ming, although Wang Ming had already hacked in successfully, it would still take some time to retrieve the data. External computers couldn't analyze such a massive amount of data at all, and it was really difficult to accurately lock onto a single person from the vast expanse of player data. Without the Research Institute's computers, it really wouldn't be possible. But speaking of retrieving the data, Wang Ming suddenly remembered that he really had to find some time to look for Wang Ling soon. The sword chi data left behind by Daoist Guang's tattered Daoist robe had already been traced back to him. The coordinates of this data were very strange, it seemed to be inside the gate between worlds, but at the same time, it wasn't. Wang Ming felt that he had to find some time to clarify this with Wang Ling in person. The result of the data analysis was an encrypted code, it wasn't something that could be explained through chatting online. While Wang Ming was pondering this, the search results came out on the computer. Online games nowadays required a real name system. This player with the ID, WF, was no exception. Wang Ming also saw the registered ID's real name, Fang Xing. Wang Ming scratched his chin. Wasn't this the little brat who had been harassing his family's Wang Ling a while ago? After seeing this name, Wang Ming made up his mind. He was going to get rid of this guy. On the other side, grenade-throwing senior immortal had already finished his broccoli salad and was back. He saw that his and Wang Ling's characters were still lying on the rooftop, motionless. At that moment, it was already the fourth time the blue circle had shrunk, and there were less than 50 people left. Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal were still in the center of the safe zone. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal got up to take a look. Actually, this circle was already a little small, and he guessed that the second half of the game would be a little more interesting. At the very least, he could see people on the map and start looting. So far in the game, he hadn't used a single 5.56 bullet in his fully loaded silenced M416. Blue House 105, there's someone on the second floor. At that moment, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal suddenly heard Wang Ling's telepathic message. Wow! Finally! Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal switched to a 4x scope. He knew it was time for him to show off his skills. He opened his scope to take a look, and sure enough, he saw a figure moving through the window of the blue house Wang Ling had mentioned. Brother Ling, watch me. Bang! 1 shot. Bang! 2 shots. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was very confident in his marksmanship. Of the 2 shots just now, one had knocked off this person's helmet and the other had hit his bulletproof vest. As long as Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's third shot hit his head, this person would undoubtedly die. But when Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal fired his third shot, he realized that this person had actually already collapsed, and the person who had been killed wasn't him. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal looked at the top right corner of the public screen. WF. Chapter 500. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had waited so long for this opportunity, and felt that it hadn't come easily. In the end, just as he had the chance to show off, his head was snatched away. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal could only describe this kind of behavior in 8 words. 1. Outrageous. 2. Insane. But Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't say much. After all, it was very normal for multiple teams to target the same target sometimes. It could only be said that the water friend in the blue room was too unlucky to be sniped by experts from both sides at the same time. In the end, he didn't even know how he had died. But Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal actually felt that there was no need to be too anxious. There were still 46 people left, so there were still plenty of opportunities. The newly spawned safe zone had enveloped the entire Sosnovka Peninsula on the map. When the players who were still alive saw the spawn of the safe zone, they would definitely move toward the direction of the Sosnovka Peninsula. However, if they wanted to get closer to the airport peninsula, they would either have to take a speedboat or swim across the river. Otherwise, they would have to fight them head-on on the bridge. Usually, when the safe zone refreshed to the Sosnovka military base, there would definitely be people waiting at the bridge to loot. Previously, there was a sharp decrease in the number of people from 60 to 50. That was because someone had died heroically while crossing the bridge. This wasn't a cheat, but a normal wave of casualties. If it had been a cheat, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal reckoned that Wang Ming would have already punished this group of people. So, in a little while, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal could already foresee a major counterattack on the same scale as Li Yunlong's attack on Pingan County. Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal now had a relatively advantageous position, because this place just so happened to be a blind spot for the crane, and it would be very difficult for the people on the Youtiao to discover them. Secondly, no one would expect the final Destiny Circle to appear in this house. Because the other half of the airfield peninsula was a wild area, when it was almost time for the decisive battle, the final circle would most likely appear in a wild map. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that the probability of it hitting a house was comparable to the probability of Wang Ling speaking. Thinking this, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal stole a glance at Wang Ling out of the corner of his eye. He knew that Wang Ling could read minds, but from Wang Ling's expression, it was very clear that he hadn't been. Otherwise, his face would have darkened a long time ago. But this also showed that Wang Ling was very focused as he played the game. Although the gaming experience wasn't very good, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal instantly felt very lucky to be able to see Wang Ling's completely different attitude from when he was studying. To him, his brother Ling would always be a role model for him to learn from. Sensing that there were more and more people around, Wang Ling's expression gradually turned serious. In the distance, Wang Ling could already see many small black dots moving in different directions. More and more people were already approaching the airport. But at this distance, even with his eyesight, he could only see moving pixels. Unless he cheated, even a sniper rifle wouldn't be able to hit him. He still needed to get a little closer. He found an angle, opened his scope, and aimed at the pixel closest to him. It was a team of people on motorcycles, and Wang Ling soon felt that he could snipe them. "There's a team in the NW direction," Wang Ling said telepathically, his voice as cold as ever. Actually, Wang Ling could fight them himself, but he didn't want to steal grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's chance to show off. At the very least, he needed to experience the game a little. Based on Wang Ling's report, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal very quickly took aim at the team. Both of them were wearing a full set of third-level equipment, and looked like two fat sheep. One of them seemed to be carrying an AWM on his back, which was a godly sniper weapon in this game. Unfortunately, these two people were too far away, so even if they were killed, they wouldn't be able to pick up the bag. "Goodbye, brother." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal narrowed his eyes and clicked the mouse. With a crisp bang, the 98K in his hand directly blew up one of the people's third-level helmets. Just as grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was about to fire a second shot, this person had already fallen to the ground, and grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's second shot just happened to finish him off. On the public screen, the kill notification came. Player WF killed player PPEQ with M24 headshot. Wang Ling, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. His kill had been stolen again. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal adjusted his breathing and did his best to calm it down. Emotional fluctuations could directly affect the accuracy of a shot, and for an outstanding long-range sniper, emotional fluctuations were a big taboo. He didn't want to explode just because someone had snatched 2 kills from him. "Brother Ling, I'll definitely kill someone today for you to see." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took a deep breath. He opened his scope and started to aim at the PPEQ teammate. "Brother Ling, I'll definitely kill someone today for you to see." Wang Ling, because his teammate had been killed by a sniper rifle, this person had swiftly found the nearest cover to hide in. It was a toilet, and the terrain was actually very bad. If someone nearby threw a grenade, they would definitely die. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal knew that this person was already panicking. A lot of newbies would panic after their teammate was killed and randomly choose cover. Although this toilet could block bullets, there were small glass windows on all sides, and it was very easy to expose one's head. Unless one was lying flat on one's stomach, they would die if they stuck their head out. After this person's teammate, PPEQ, had been killed, his third-level helmet had also been blown off by WF when he had dashed into this toilet. Without a helmet, whether it was an M24 or a 98K, as long as you could hit the head, you would die in one shot. And now, it was time to compete in hand speed. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal adjusted his breathing and waited for an opportunity to move. In less than 2 seconds, he saw this person's head sway through the glass above the toilet, and grenade-throwing Senior Immortal reacted even faster. He swiftly fired. Bang! After the shot, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal saw the system message. System message: player WF killed player PPEQ with M24 headshot. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't help swearing. F***K. On purpose. This guy definitely did it on purpose. Wang Ling, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, he aimed at whoever I aimed at. No, Brother Ling, I can't take it anymore, I have to go out and punish him. As soon as he said this, before Wang Ling had time to shout, he saw grenade-throwing Senior Immortal directly jump out. In the game, the further away grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was from Wang Ling's game character, the lower the radiation effect of Wang Ling's Great Fortune spell, Then, it was just as Wang Ling had thought. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.